Good evening. It is 5 p.m. on Tuesday, July 14th, 2026. This meeting of the Killeen Independent School District Board of Trustees is now called to order. The following trustees are present and participating: Oliver Mintz, Vice President; Brenda Adams, Secretary; Susan Jones, Board Member; Marvin Rainwater, Board Member; Tina Capito, Board Member; Rodney Gilchrist, Board Member; and me, Brett Williams, President and Presiding Officer. For the record, a quorum has been established and is present. A recording of this meeting is being made and will be available to the public at a later date. We're also streaming this meeting on our cable channel 17 and on the district's webpage. As a reminder, anyone wishing to speak at public forum must submit their sign-up sheet at this time. Agenda item number 1, public forum. The board will now hear comments from those who've signed up to speak. Per board policy, each public comment is limited to 3 minutes. I will ask the audience to please refrain from any public outbursts and to maintain decorum. Parents, employees, and citizens are encouraged to utilize the district's grievance process to the fullest extent possible. Related policies are available on the district's website or upon request. Signed up to speak, I have Melissa Hill. If you would just approach that podium. There'll be a microphone there. We're going to ask you, that light should turn green, which means it is active, and state your name, address, and then your 3 minutes will start. Welcome.
You said my address?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Hello, my name is Melissa Hill. Like my actual address?
Just say, I live in Killeen,
Oh,
Texas.
I live in Killeen. I was like, I don't want to tell y'all. I'm sorry. My name is Melissa Hill. Good evening, everybody. I'm a parent of 2 elementary school children, one of whom receives special education services. I'm here tonight because I wanted to bring attention to the challenges families like mine continue to have. First, there's a constant movement of special education programs. This upcoming school year will be the 3rd school that my child has to attend because his program keeps being relocated. While these decisions may make sense from an administrative standpoint, they have a real impact on children. Students with special needs thrive on consistency, routine, and familiar relationships. Every move means that my child has to adjust to a new school, new teacher, new classmates, and new environment. That transition can be difficult and affect their progress. Additionally, I have another elementary child age student. Every time my one child is moved, I have to, who receives special education, I have to reassign my other child to the new school. This process is very lengthy, and having two kids in 2 different schools does not make any sense and creates unnecessary stress for families. I encourage that the district establish a streamline for siblings to transfer like special education programs. When a district requires a child to change schools, siblings should be able to transfer more easily and ride the same bus, reducing the burden on parents and helping families stay together. Additionally, I want to address the lack of speech-language resources. One of my sons is currently owed nearly 100 minutes of speech therapy because of staffing. In addition, the services he receives are provided virtually instead of in person. While teletherapy may be necessary in some situations, it should not be a long-term solution for children who need direct face-to-face services. These missed minutes represent services that my child is legally entitled to and should receive and are critical for his development. I respectfully ask the board to prioritize stability in special education placements, create a more family-centered transfer process, and invest in recruiting and retaining the specialists our students need. Thank you for your time and considering these concerns.
Thank you, Ms. Hill. Someone from staff will reach out to you. We'll now move to agenda item number 2, closed session. The board will now convene in closed session for any combination of the following. Agenda item 2A, discussion regarding board operating procedures as allowed by Texas Government Code 551.071, 551.074. Agenda item 2B, pursuant to the Texas Government Code sections 551.071 and 551.0821, The board will consult with its attorney regarding pending or contemplated litigation and matters involving personally identifiable student information, including discussion of a proposed resolution agreement involving mediation, docket number 089DM0526. Agenda item 2C, pursuant to Texas Government Code Sections 551.071 and 551.0821. The board will consult with its attorney regarding pending or contemplated litigation and matters involving personally identifiable student information, including discussion of a proposed resolution agreement involving TEA due process, docket number 333 SC0426. Agenda item 2D, consultation with the district's legal counsel regarding pending litigation, a settlement offer, or other issues confidential under the attorney-client privilege as allowed by Texas Government Code 551.071. Agenda item 2E, deliberate the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property as allowed by Texas Government Code 551.072. Agenda item 2F, deliberate the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, duties, discipline, or dismissal of a public officer or employee as allowed by Texas Government Code 551.074. Agenda item 2G, deliberate a matter regarding a public school student in which personally identifiable information about the student will necessarily be revealed as allowed by Texas Government Code 551.0821. Agenda item 2H, level 3 parent grievance as allowed by Texas Government Code 551.071. 551.0821. And then agenda item 2I, level 3 parent grievance as allowed by Texas Government Code 551.071 and 551.0821. No voting will take place in closed session. Any action the board wishes to take as a result of discussions in closed session will take place after the board reconvenes in the open meeting. The time is now 5:07 p.m. and we're in closed session, and we will convene in the superintendent's conference room. Thank you. The time is now 6:04 p.m. and we are reconvening from closed session. No action or voting took place in closed session. No action is needed. This meeting of the Clean Independent School District Board of Trustees will resume in accordance with the posted agenda for today's meeting. Anyone who did not have an opportunity to speak during public forum at 5 p.m. and wishing to speak during this portion must submit their sign-up sheet at this time. A recording of this meeting is being made and will be available to the public at a later date. We're also streaming this meeting on our cable channel 17 and on the district's webpage. Agenda item number 3, public forum. Ms. Weaver, do we have anyone signed up? I'm being informed by Ms. Weaver as well as Mr. Harper that we have no one signed up for public comment. So we'll move on to our next agenda item. My rowdy trustees down there just chatting away. Information, item number 4, information items for discussion. Agenda item 3, discussion of a memorandum of understanding with Central County Services for the 2026-2027 school year. Welcome, Ms. Lumar.
Good evening. I am Shannon Lumar, Director of Counseling for Mental Health and Wellness. Central County Services has provided support to students and families in Killeen ISD for the past 6 years. Tonight is an annual request to continue the partnership between KISD and Central County Services. I'd like to share a brief overview of the services that Central County Services provide and brief information about our partnership during this past school year. Central County Services is an agency that provides a range of services for persons experiencing symptoms of mental illnesses that includes outpatient mental health services to children. Children's mental health services provide services to children and adolescents between the ages of 3 and 17 with serious emotional and behavioral problems, causing significant disruption in their lives. Per the Texas statewide plan for student mental health, Central County Services is the local mental health authority that serves as a regional resource for KISD. This past school year, Central County Services has served approximately 60 students and families across 13 elementary campuses, 7 middle school campuses, and 4 high school campuses in KISD. The total number of contact hours documented through services were approximately 177. General information about services provided to students who are clients of Central County Services includes person-centered recovery. That simply means that the services are tailored to meet the student's specific needs. The services address the child's strengths, presenting problems with interventions, and a discharge plan. SMART goals with SMART objectives are created for each of the students presenting problems. The person-centered recovery plan outlines the frequency, quantity, and duration of each intervention. For example, case management, skills training, individual psychotherapy, etc. The skills training service is the only service that is provided for Central County Services clients by Central County Services employees on KISD campuses. Skills training includes teaching social skills, coping strategies, and strategies to reduce maladaptive behaviors. Are there any questions?
Questions from trustees? Mr. Rainwater?
Students don't have a treatment plan, is that correct?
They do have treatment plans. The
They do?
treatment plans are the person-centered recovery plans.
Thank you. In psychotherapy?
The psychotherapy sessions are only held at the Central County Service facility. So if they need therapy sessions, they do that at Central County Service facilities. The skills training is the only services that are done on campus.
Thank you. Shannon, I was wondering if you think any of the services that are provided, we could plug our alternative school students into who might be having a difficult time adjusting to that setting or might bring with them a suitcase of other problems to DAEP. You think that's a possibility, or would that fit your service criteria?
Most definitely. And the services have to be approved by parents. We have to, if the students might benefit, it's a resource that's provided to parents, and they're provided with parent permission. Does that answer your question?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Any other questions? Mr. Vice President?
Ms. Lumar, do we track any data that the kids that take advantage of these services, whether they're academically improving, anything like that? Do we capture that? Or I suppose we could just, well, I don't know, I'll just leave the question there.
Yes, we do. So the qualified mental health professional meets with the school counselor or the social-emotional learning specialist before they begin meeting with the student to discuss what they're going to be doing, why they're meeting with the student, and the services that they'll be providing. And then they meet throughout the process for the counselor or social-emotional learning specialist to be able to use the strategies that the qualified mental health professional is using to help the student to be successful. So the campus counselor and social-emotional learning specialist, they are tracking like the student attendance, disciplinary records, and improvement in grades.
Okay, and so do we see an improvement of the kids accessing these services?
Overall, we are.
Okay.
We are seeing improvements.
I know this is kind of, I think we see this annually. The next time we bring this up, could you just give us some data? I mean, if there's like 60 kids that do it, it shouldn't be that hard to pull that together. But to me, that'd be an interesting data point to see if it
Absolutely.
is moving the needle for us. Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions from trustees? Thank you. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
We'll now go to agenda item B, discussion of paraprofessional school district teaching permits for the Clean Independent School District teach participants. Welcome, Mr. Will Baker.
Good evening, President Williams, Dr. Davis, board members. It's my pleasure to come talk to you about a really an exciting topic, and that's our Grow Your Own programs and our teacher pipelines. in doing this, I have with me Ms. Shaquata Wright and Ms. Andy Wilson here who are helping this effort greatly. And so if I get stumped by a question, they'll be here as my backup. But really what we want to talk to you about is the state has changed some things in the last session about how we go about managing these programs. And we kind of want to go over generally what programs we have as far as teacher pipelines, and then talk to you very specifically about the KISD Teach program, which we've been doing for quite a while, but we need to change, we may make a small change in how we administer that program. So, and I apologize for the small type here, but just to let you know, we do have several programs that we are working in to create. As you know, our universities, our colleges are struggling to create enough graduates for us to fill our teaching ranks. And so we, like many other districts, are having to create our own programs to develop teachers in-house. And so to do that, the state has finally helped us by providing us with some resources. That is known right now as the PREP allotment, which we have applied for, received, and we will be putting into place this year. Basically, you'll see three things out of that effort. One is the pre-service residency program, which we know we had started previous to this PREP allotment, but now we're going to get some extra money from it from the state, and that's where we partner with the university. Our partner is Texas A&M Central Texas, and we put a resident on our campus, not for the traditional half a year or semester as a traditional student teacher would be, but we put that person on our campus for a full year, give them some money to make it through the year. We will be able to raise our pay this year with the PREP allotment, and so that'll be great. That'll make us more competitive. I believe we have 6 folks on target to begin this year. We already have one person who started at January, so they'll be completing in December. So we like this program. We've already gotten 4 teachers out of this program since we've run it, and they're committed to us for a 3-year period. So that's great to hear. That's that residency program. We're going to have a separate Grow Your Own program. We're going to call it, it's a little confusing. We used to call our in-house program the apprenticeship program, but because of the way we have to word things to get the proper recognition from the Department of Labor, we're going to call this new program our KTAP program, our Colleen Teacher Apprentice Program. And this is working with paraprofessionals who want to become teachers. And we partner with that group that we've talked to you about before, Edwell, and we have an agreement with them. And we work with a group of our paraprofessionals who want to get degrees and then go into teaching. And this is a system that they won't be this gets confusing. They won't be teachers right away, but they will be growing and getting training from us as they are participate in this program to get through their bachelor's degree and then take on, when they're ready, a classroom of their own. So we're real excited about this program. We've sent out applications. We had over 100 applicants, and we will be getting money from the state, quite a significant amount of money to run this program for 40 people. And so we've identified those 40 people, I believe, this week. And so we're real excited to start that program. And that's called the Colleen Teacher Apprenticeship Program. We're also getting some money to do better mentoring. So we have a prep mentorship program where we're working with teachers here in the district, and they're going to go through some mentoring training so they become more effective mentors for these new teachers. And we'll get a little bit of money for that. And we're running that. That has shown in research, they tell us that to be real effective, to have first-year teachers survive that first year and really flourish in the coming years after that. So that's real important too. So all of these programs, we're going to get money. It came out of House Bill 2, and we're really excited to start that and partner with folks from Edwell. We've already gotten into a group of districts working with a program out of Dallas College. It's called CREW, and we ought to be able to getting more technical assistance for how to really make these Grow Your Own programs flourish through that partnership. Now, tonight, I need to talk to you specifically about our program that we've had here already called KISD Teach, where we put paraprofessionals right into the classroom under the leadership of a partner teacher who was teacher of record, and they have gone through this program. I believe we have 36 teachers in that program right now, or around there, around 30, between 30 and 40. And they teach in the classroom. They get help from that mentor teacher who really serves as teacher of record, but this person is doing all the instruction and following the kids and doing very well while they get their degree and go through the certification. We've already had some folks graduate. We're going to have more graduates this year that we're going to announce very shortly. And we're hoping after this round of testing in the summer that we'll actually have our first true certified teacher. And so we're going to rename that the KISD Teach Associate Teaching Program. The state has come in and loves this program because we're not the only district who does this. And what they're going to do is allow them to become teacher of record right away as opposed to waiting by giving us a special teaching permit. And that's what we're talking specifically about tonight. And to do this, we need your approval. And that's what we're going to be asking for you to do in the next board meeting. But by applying for this permit for these teachers, it allows our district employees, our current KSD Teach participant, to serve in the teaching roles while completing their program requirements. Participants must be enrolled in an approved educator preparation program. That's those alt-cert programs that we're also familiar with, and enrolled in post-secondary program that leads to a bachelor's degree concurrently, and meet the established program requirements. This program, this permit that we apply for lasts for 3 years. So it gives them 3 years to get the certification, get their bachelor's degree and the certification done. And so the folks that get this permit will have until the end of the 28-29 school year. And so this is coming out of House Bill 2. And we're real excited. And so we're going to come to you and ask you to give us permission to apply for those permits if you would. We want to do this, just as a reminder, to strengthen our education pipelines, support our stability, and make sure that every year when we need to replenish our teaching ranks, that we have this pipeline available to us and ready to put the next great teacher in front of our students. And with that, I'll turn it over to any questions you may have.
Questions from trustees? Madam Jones.
Mr. Baker, I have a couple of questions. I think our Clean Teach program is a wonderful program, and I'm glad that we're doing something like that. I've always said we needed to grow our own. So it says here that it's budget neutral. When we say it's budget neutral, can you really clarify? Is that really truly budget neutral?
Because what we do is we take what we would pay a first-year teacher, right? We're going to pay this associate a little bit less than that and use this money that we would be paying a fully certified teacher to actually pay what we need to as far as tuition, to help them with their tuition and training costs. That's why we say it's budget neutral. Okay. We often find that with the help of the program that we've got them in, we actually save money on it because they end up getting grants and so forth, so we don't have to pay the tuition.
All right, so I have a couple of questions, but the second part of that is, what commitment do those individuals then have to our district? So after that, they finish the program, they get their degree, and they're out the door.
They sign an agreement with us that they're going to teach with us 3 years, and if they leave us early, they've got to repay us for the money that we spent training them.
Okay, all right. And then the other question is, I'm a parent coming into KISD, and I have my little Johnny in Miss Jones's class. Do I know that Miss Jones is not a certified teacher, but a teacher who is in the KISD Teach program?
We have to notify them that every year.
So parents are informed? Okay, that would be the only question I'd have. So,
thank you.
Thank you.
Trustee Gilchrist.
Mr. Baker, I heard you say that there were approximately 100 applicants, but we only approved 40. Is that because of the funding issue?
Yes, that's because of the funding, sir. Yes.
Okay, so It wasn't because of lack of qualifications or the people that applied, it's?
No, it's just, the state only funds us up to 40 people.
Wow, okay.
Any other questions from trustees? Mr. Vice President?
Mr. Baker, the placement of these 40 teachers in training, are we strategically placing them? So I guess my question is, I don't want to make sure that we're not putting them in the lowest performing schools that already have a huge lift, and now we're levying another requirement on the leadership of that school. Are we placing them where they have good leadership, where they have a chance to succeed, not where they're just trying to keep their head above water?
I'm going to turn to Ms. Wright on that. You want to come up here and introduce yourself and all that?
Good afternoon, I'm Shaquata Wright. Yes, it's a partnership. So we are also communicating with principals once we get the selection finalized to make sure everyone has passed all background checks. We work with principals to ensure they know who is coming on their campus, they have an active voice in the process, but also looking at the campuses that we're placing the people at, what they need, what kind of support they will be getting, because TA also requires us to make sure they have proper supports. We have to report to TA as well.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from trustees? Mr. Baker, my question would be, we only took 40 out of, you said 100? Was that the 100 applicants? You said we took 40. So what's the fiscal note? Well, would there be a home for the other 60?
Yeah, so, of course, we want them to
There would be a home for the other 60 if there was funding?
Well, if they qualify, if they meet the qualifications to be a paraprofessional, yes. I have the openings. Is that what your question is?
No, so I think my question is this, so there's 60 people that didn't get in because we said we've only got funding for 40. Are there positions for an additional 60 people would be my question?
Yeah, I have openings for paraprofessionals in the district.
Okay, and so if there are openings, how is there not funding? Is it because of, you said the state only funds?
The state get funding for us to help them with tuition at an undergraduate institution, and also to provide them, these 40 will get on-the-job training from what I was talking to you about, our partnership with Dallas College and with Edwell. We'll have people come and work with them, for instance, and give them lessons on how to run a small group instruction. That's what we have funding for to do for the 40.
So the funding, gotcha, so that's where the fall off is, because otherwise our portion would be there because we do have the other vacancies, but we don't have that funding from the Dallas College piece. That makes sense, because I was going to say, if we have those vacancies for the entire year, how is there not the funding? So it's not totally equal, so that answers my question. You're good, Madam Capito? Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Baker and your team, we appreciate you. All right, next we'll move to agenda item 4C, discussion of the proposed Clean Independent School District Student Code of Conduct for the 2026-2027 school year. This will be fun. Welcome, Mr. Wells.
It's going to be fine, Mr. Williams. Good evening, Dr. Davis, members of the board, President Williams. Tonight I'm here to present the proposed Student Code of Conduct for the 26-27 school year. Tonight we'll review the proposed changes for the upcoming school year. The changes are in sections regarding prohibited items, personal communication devices, misuses of technology resources and the internet, transportation, DAEP placement and expulsion, dress code, progressive discipline matrix system, fights or assaults while at school, and other general violations. First, we propose to move metal cups such as Stanley cups or other Yeti-style insulated cups to the list of prohibited items on page 11. We did not allow these cups last year, as you know, but we included them on the dress code with our mesh bag definition. We're asking to move this over to prohibited items where we think it fits a little bit better than being on the dress code list. The next addition is found on page 12 and also in Exhibit B. Earbuds were already on the list last year, but were designated as AirPods, which is brand specific. Earbuds is a more general specific term for the pieces that go in their ear. Just trying to minimize confusion there. Also, feedback we got from the campuses last year is once the kids found out they couldn't use the earbuds, they switched over to the big ear headphones, and that was kind of circumventing the rules that we had in place. So we've added the designation of headphones to that list as well. And then additionally, AI glasses are kind of a new technology that's come on here lately. And so we understand or could see where this could pose a risk to student privacy and also academic integrity. So they are designated as a communication device, so we added them specifically to this list on page 12 and in Exhibit B. Dr. Cook and her team in Technology Services provided input for the technology section found on page 13. Students should not share login credentials or passwords. Also, the use of thumb drives or external storage devices also pose a risk to our network. And so as you see, students will be directed to use the cloud storage provided for them in OneDrive. Misbehavior on the school bus can pose a serious safety risk, as we know. And on pages 19 to 21, the expectations for behavior and possible consequences are laid out. We also provided a link in the Student Code of Conduct to the Discipline Policy and Transportation Handbook that is found on the transportation website. On pages 26 to 30, the DAEP placement process is outlined. We are adjusting this process, and the references to the district hearing officer have been changed to reflect the campus administrator. Appeals will continue to follow F&G local and be filed as a grievance with the Office of Student Support Services. All expulsion hearings will continue to be conducted by the Director of Discipline, Grievances, and Complaints, however. The dress code is outlined on page 61 and 62. We've removed references to facial hair and hair grooming expectations. We are also proposing to remove trench coats from the examples of attire that is not allowed. We just feel like these are antiquated terms and a little out of date, so we just want to bring that list of dress code items up to date. As a note, district IDs will be issued to all KISD students, including those attending Gateway Middle School and High School. Also, the note pertaining to standardized dress has been removed at the bottom of page 62, as we currently do not have any campuses that wear uniforms. Yes, sir.
So you're going to allow the kids to wear the trench coats now? Is that what that's saying?
No, sir. That would be contained under things. There is a general statement in there about wearing oversized clothing that could be used to conceal items.
So that would fall under that?
It would fall under that. But I think trench coats came in somewhere around the late 90s, and
They wearing them now?
well, if it is an issue, that's something that we need to bring back and specifically state, then we can do that as well.
Madam Capito.
You said that we don't have anyone with standardized dress, but what about DAEP?
So DAEP, elementary, middle school, and high school do have uniform expectations for those campuses. Those are covered in their enrollment and orientation processes on those campuses. But what we're referencing here was the standardized dress, like we used to have at Ransier Middle School, that was voted in and board approved. That falls a little bit different into their normal operating procedures on those specific alternative campuses. So that's not changing.
So we don't need to put a statement in that says standardized dress is only at alternative campuses?
We can add that
I
statement.
mean, I'm just asking.
We can absolutely add that statement to
I just
make
don't
that
want someone to
designation.
come back later and say, well, you said none of your campuses are standardized dress,
Absolutely.
but you really do have standardized dress at DAP.
I know I've got two people in the queue.
Yes, absolutely.
You have a question? Ladies first. Madam Jones.
So when we talk about requirement to remove the hair and facial hair, the requirement for hair and facial hair to be groomed or whatever, that's kind of an open-ended statement there. I mean, what are we talking about?
So it was defined just that way in the current Student Code of Conduct, or last year's Student Code of Conduct, that hair must be groomed and clean. That is very subjective. And we expect our students to come, but unless it's something that is an issue, it just was not something that was enforceable by the campuses when we talk to the campuses. And so we still want our children to be
Let's just be honest.
representative when they come to
They wear
school.
beards. I mean,
They-
guys wear
yes.
beards. It's an in thing. It's, to define whether my beard is trimmed right or Hex is trimmed
Correct.
right is subjective. I
And,
think that-
and quite judgmental in some instances.
So, but this doesn't, and the reason I ask that is because, well, the cleanliness thing is important, but I would hope
Yes.
that would be addressed somewhere else, that students are expected to come in a healthy environment.
Absolutely.
So, one of the couple of questions was about kids with their colored hair. So if they have purple hair, they got mohawk, or that kind of stuff.
Yes.
So those things are the question.
Turn the mic on.
There is no reference to hair coloring or hair styling that's been there for some time, so
Okay.
that was removed some time ago.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Trustee Rainwater.
There's no answer to this question, but I've been on all 4 high school campuses this last year, and we don't follow the dress code. None of them do. So my question becomes, as a board member, why are we even talking about standardized dress expectations are removed? Are we saying we're removing the dress code?
No, sir, not at all, by any means.
So what's the point of having a dress code that no one follows?
It's an outstanding point, and Dr. Davis has charged our department to work with our campus administrators to ensure that we're enforcing this. When this is approved and in, we are meeting with, we're meeting with campus principals this week through our Leadership Academy, and that is going to be a point of emphasis for this year, that they are going to uphold and emphasize the dress code on the expectations on their campus.
And then that goes to parents who've been sending their kids to school for a year or so, dress as they please, and parents are now going to need to know, for everyone's benefit, that we're actually going to do what we say we're going to do, which I doubt happens.
So we've already been speaking with campus principals to be including dress code expectations in their summer communications, and we will up that as we get closer to school. We know that we have tax-free weekend coming up, so they're going to be out buying the clothes. And so we want to be sensitive to this as well, Mr. Rainwater. It is not easy to go to the store these days and buy clothes for children that fit. And so, but we want them to do that because we do believe, and if the board says so, it's important, and we're going to enforce that. So we have to be sensitive to both sides, but the rules are the rules.
You good, sir? Mr. Vice President.
So, Mr. Wells, trying to find the strong enough words, vehemently disagree with the requirement for hair and facial hair to be groomed. Student Code of Conduct is not a document, I mean, I understand it has to be enforceable, but more than anything, it's a written list of our expectations. Every person in this room has their hair groomed. There's a young lady sitting out there. Her hair is groomed. Every child should walk into school prepared to learn, and it's just an expectation of society. If you walk in like you just rolled out of bed, well, that's kind of how you're going to perform. They don't have to have a brand new hairstyle, but heck, if somebody walks in looking like they just got out of bed, the teacher or the administrator ought to say, hey, why don't you go there in the restroom, put a little water on your hair, run your fingers through it so you look like a presentable, professional person who has some hope of succeeding in society. I get it. If you're going to go be a rock star and you're going to have crazy hair, by God, go do it, but you're not being a rock star at Killeen High School while you're in class. So I think what it does is it sets a lower expectation. And you've heard me say this, it's the soft bigotry of low expectations. If we don't expect that our kids are going to adhere to these standards, then we're doing them no favors. I think that is a terrible mistake. I think it sets a lower standard, and that's the last thing we need in this district.
And before I let Dr. Davis speak, I just want to make sure, Mr. Vice President, when you say that, are you referencing like the facial hair expectations, or are we referencing the attire? Are you referencing more grooming? Okay. Mr. Okay. Okay, hands are flying everywhere now. I'm going to pluck them off slowly. I think I'm going to come over here and then I'll come back to you. Madam Secretary.
Thank you, sir. You mentioned standardized dress for the alternative campus Have there been changes
In what way?
in their standardized dress? You
There-
said
there's-
that is the campus that's remained standardized dress. So what is their dress code now?
It's going to be a little bit different than what we've been in the past. So they've worn black tops for the high schools. The elementary school is white top, black bottom. We are going to allow at the middle school and high school, they're going to wear sweat pants for the bottoms instead of jeans. That will greatly enhance our ability to secure as they come through our weapons detections points of entry. We found a lot of issues with the rivets and the buckles and things like that on clothes that were causing us to have to go deeper in those searches. With sweatpants, that goes away. And then middle school will wear a gray top, and high school will wear a black top, so that we can designate and delineate between the two at the new campus.
And so you got input from the principals to make those changes because what I'm recalling is constantly getting young people to pull their pants up, put the belt on the pants the way they were manufactured, but now we're going to sweatpants.
The dress code for the DAEP middle school and high school
Sweatpants.
camp, yes,
Is
ma'am.
what I heard you say.
The changes to that were a result of that, the DAEP committee that we had convened. That was a direct result of the dress code.
Okay.
Dress code expectations there.
Okay, thank you.
Adam Jones.
So I'm a big fan on dress code, and I've had conversations with many people in regards to that. And every time I go to a school event, and I see those extreme violations, I wonder if we're really doing what we're expecting to do, because if we're not following through, then all of this is just irrelevant, like Mr. Rainwater said. And our job as a school district is to educate children and to prepare them for the future, for their careers. And you're not going to walk into a workplace with torn up blue jeans because you can't find anything else in the store, which is a bunch of rubbish, so you can tell that to somebody else. I can go to Goodwill and find good jeans. And so they're out there. People just have to be willing to wear them. And you can go to Walmart and buy them for $25, $30 a pair. So we have to have a dress code. And yes, we do have to have them groomed. And I don't expect kids to come to school with wild hair and mess like they just rolled out of bed. And you go to Walmart on whenever and see anybody in there with their slippers and their pajamas and their hair, and it's just crazy. And we don't want kids coming to school like that. And so I don't want to lessen the standards. I just want the standards to be enforced. And we have those metal detectors now. Kids are coming through those things. There should be right there is your first gate to fix the problem. So we shouldn't have much of that this coming year, I hope.
I think it's important for the group because, I think I can comfortably say there's probably no one more OCD than me when it comes to what I call dress right dress. But I have had to even accept what has become the new reality. It is not. I have a 16-year-old daughter, and I've had some conversations like, that's the outfit? And it's not that it's inappropriate because I'm thinking about my standards, but it's a new landscape that they're in. It is a true statement. I have gone into the store with my child, and I'm like, they don't have it in here. It's because they are producing what the kids are buying, okay? And they're in the business of, you don't stay in business by running a bad business. You put a product out there that kids want to buy. The other thing is, I will tell everyone, I get it. I mean, I'm an every 7-day guy to go see my barber and get my beard shaped up. But what I've learned is that I think we have to do more leading by example and then communicating that to our kids to hopefully to get them to buy into it. And that's not the way that I was brought up, okay? It was not. It was like, you shall. It's just not that easy anymore. You will lose more kids than I think you realize that you will gain by trying to say, I'm just going to wage this battle on this and that, because I'll be honest, how we might say someone looks like they just woke up and their hair's a mess, that might be the style now. I mean, because times have just changed like that. And it's not that I agree with it, but I mean, I had a haircut that was slanted sideways back in the late 80s with a little bit of red dye on the front. I mean, and my mom thought I was absolutely crazy. I'm pretty sure I got a whooping for getting the red dye because she didn't approve it, okay? But I was a pretty good kid, you know, and so I think we have to be understanding. Now, Madam Jones, I agree with you. I stand up on the stage during those academic awards. I know exactly, and I go, that can't be the dress code. I drop off at Ellison every day the last 2 years, and I see stuff through the parking lot, and I'm going, so yes, man, we want them to be the best teachers in the world. We want them to be the best principals in the world, but then they got to be fashion police too, and I just ask you all to have a little bit of compassion, not to compromise what you really believe in, but have a little bit of compassion with what they're dealing with, understand what is in the words of King Davis, what is our current reality with our students, and it's just not the group of students that we were once a part of. I'm just being honest with everybody. I mean, they want to look extremely different. I run a youth club. I hire kids from 16 to 23 from Temple High School, Belton Academy. They look really similar to the kids I see over here. And they told me, my staff said, Brett, don't die on that hill on this dress code with the staff. And I had to compromise, you know, but I communicate to them how I've embraced that. So I say, but here's how I want you to embrace some things. And that's how I win them over, you know. And so I just say, keep in mind, I mean, these kids they're different. They're not, but we were different than our parents were too. You know, so that's my soapbox of the dress code. And no one wants them to dress like me more than me. I want you to wear slacks and be tucked in all the time and faded every 7 days. But I can't make them be me, but I can try to help them understand how it can benefit them to eventually evolve. You know, so King Davis.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. The dress code has been a point of contention, guys, for a very, very long time throughout the state, throughout the country. I would just remind everyone, and I will respectfully ask to just allow us to focus on a few things. Again, we can't boil the ocean. Again, I've been there, done it as a principal, seen lots of things come and go. I will say that, to your point, Mr. President, we all have different standards. Certainly, I have a standard in my home, or I had when my son was school-aged, so on and so forth. But keep in mind, we parents, we can't take their control to a certain degree. Now, we will set a standard, but there are different standards and norms and values in our homes, and we need to respect it. Number two, I will say, allow us to focus on a few things. We know when we see things, to your point, Mrs. Jones, if we could just focus on modesty, we know when young ladies are dressed a certain way and it's inappropriate. We know when young men, I'm not going to see your side, I'm not going to look at your butt and your underwear. It's certain things, if we just focus on a few things and expect a certain standard as it relates to modesty, that's what I would ask that we are allowed to focus on. Getting into certain things, guys, we will spend I have been there as a principal. We could spend our entire day on dress code, forcing a dress code, as opposed to just, we know when something's inappropriate, when a young lady is revealing too much. We know that. It doesn't take a rocket science for that. We need to address those things. Young men, we're going to expect you to pull your pants, so we're not going to watch you sagging, walking around our schools. Right? It's certain things we're not going to tolerate. But as it relates to setting certain standards, parents need to set those standards in their home. They have certain values, right? And we can't take that away, in my professional opinion.
Madam Capito.
Okay, so I'm going to go on the other side. We also need to remember that some of our kids do not have the financial ability for the haircuts and the clothing and those things. And so there has to be some grace provided and resources provided. So I think I would rather a child show up and be at school. I need them to learn. I mean, I know I want them to look good, and we know we need to have a standard. We also have to start that with with our staff, because our staff needs to be in dress code. That needs to be the example. And I'm a former teacher, so I've seen it. I know that sometimes even teachers are out of dress code, and so we do need to lead by example. But at the end of the day, I need every child at school because, I really want them fed. And I know they get fed at school, and that's important to me because I want children there. So I think we have to have a good balance of this and know what battle to fight, because at the end of the day, we need these kids to show up every day in our doors.
Mr. Vice President.
So I actually scrolled to the page here, and I'm looking at, it's page, not that anybody really cares, but it's page 95 of the packet, or 94 of the packet. And this district is choosing to line through the sentence that says hair must be neat, clean, and well-groomed. That's our standard. In Killeen ISD, you don't have to be neat, cleaned, and well-groomed. If that's our standard, just let me know, because it shouldn't be. I agree with Ms. Capito that it's important for kids to come into school, but it's also important for kids to come into school with some sense of pride. It's also important that this district says these are the standards. We expect them to meet standards on tests. We expect them to meet standards on conduct. We expect them to come to school, but yet we don't even require that their hair is neat and clean and well-groomed. Look, I don't have dreadlocks. I understand that people do. I'm not saying you can't wear the style or the culture that you're familiar with, but it can all still be neat, clean, and well-groomed. And if that's not a standard, then we got a way, way, way bigger problem than a dress code. I understand that different families have different standards. You're free to have that standard in your home. This ain't your home. This is a learning institution where we're trying to grow children into citizens that serve and can be successful. And if we can't do that, if we can't say, you can do what you want at home, but these are the standards here, and if we can't say that, we've got a way, way, way bigger problem. On the DAEP wearing sweatpants, if I have one more person tell me, but by God, we don't want the prison to, or the school to prison pipeline. Well, what the hell do prisoners wear? They wear sweatpants. They don't wear jeans, right? They're not expected to wear belts and have tucked in shirts. So don't anybody come up here again about DAEP telling me how we're reforming these kids and we're teaching these kids, and yet you're going to dress them like prisoners when they walk through the door as a matter of convenience. It's nonsense.
Mr. Wells, provide a little bit more clarity. So how I read the hair deal was, I'm assuming y'all are striking it because it's eliminating people making subjective opinions on what is well-groomed. It's not that we don't want you well-groomed. So is it possible, I don't know that it's possible. How do you capture that in writing where it's not, subjective? Because that's how, I didn't read it to go like we're just saying, and I understand what you're saying, Mr. Mintz,
Yes.
but I want to be fair to what staff is attempting to convey versus, I don't think y'all are just going, hey, we're just trying to say do anything. You're trying to say, how do we capture, how do we quantify
Correct.
neat, clean, and well-groomed? Is it razor? And it's a tough one. I understand what you're saying, but I don't know how you put that in writing where it can be equally enforced across the district.
That's exactly the point being made tonight, is that we want to bring a student code of conduct that is enforceable and consistent. And that was one of the statements that we just could not land on a place where, how do you enforce clean, groomed, in that situation with hair and with facial hair. And so it is up for discussion. If it needs to stay, we will keep it right where it is in the student code of conduct, and along with the other things that are here as well.
Madam Jones?
Earlier, you said that it would be a principal's discretion for placement in DAEP. Is that correct? When we were talking about the placement for DAEP, it was said it's the principal's discretion?
Yes, ma'am.
So if the principal can make a discretional decision about that, I would think that the principal could also make a reasonable decision about whether it is clean, neat, and groomed. So if we left it in there and we left that up to the principal to decide whether that student needed to go, because the whole question is whose decision is going to be whether that student is clean, neat, and groomed. But again, whose decision is it if the student is well-behaved?
Mr. Wells, I'm hoping that your response to that is going to be when we're making a placement, it's based on actions
Yes.
that you have actually committed.
Yes.
Hair is not an action.
I get it. I'm just saying, the principal should be able to make those decisions, I would think. Same way with, okay, those jeans don't meet dress code. Somebody's got to, I mean,
Yes. Mr. Williams, I think to your point, when you look at this situation, it's not that we're lowering expectations, but what is something that's enforceable and enforceable with a disciplinary consequence if they don't meet that standard? And so, to your point, when I said discretionary, what we're talking about there is a discretionary placement, mandatory placement. We get into some of those things. So the principal is overseeing those discretionary, that has that discretion for those discretionary offenses. And if we leave it here in the student code of conduct, this becomes a discretionary offense, that if a student violates it enough times, based on what we have here, they could be moving down the path of being placed at DAEP for hair that's not clean and groomed. That's what, and if that's the will of the board, then we will leave this in place for sure. I wanted to bring it to you for discussion.
And it's our document to approve, that's why it's here. I think a key thing, and Mr. Rainwater touched on it earlier, is, and let's try to enforce the document that we have. Like, I'm just being honest, like, it could have come back to me as presented, and my whole deal would have been, hey, are we gonna get some improvement on enforcement? So I view these as minor tweaks. At the core of it is the enforcement of the actual dress code. I mean, and you'd have to get on the campuses on every day to understand what the principals are dealing with, and it's just a tough task. The DAEP, I will say this, so that was the first I was hearing of the dress, because the DAEP dress code, unless I missed it, is not, I probably did miss it, it was a long document. That, I did not catch that sweat portion, those sweatpants, and so I have some opinions on that, but I've got some time to process that, and so I will state that I do have somewhat of an issue with that. Madam Secretary.
As we're talking about the cleanliness of the hair and so forth, and the principal's discretion, at 25 years of being a middle school principal, I can honestly say that I've never seen a referral for a student whose hair was the issue. Never. To me, it just needs to stay in there. It needs to be a standard of expectation. If it was an issue of cleanliness, I would always go to the nurse and we'd work on the hygiene side. I've never seen a discipline referral for hair not being clean or that kind of thing.
Will you provide some clarity on that? Because there's a reason it struck out. I'm assuming there's something there. Y'all didn't just pick that on page 90, and I'm not advocating for it, but I'm just going, surely there's a reason why y'all have done that. There's something there.
I said before, the expectation from Dr. Davis has been very clear, and Mr. Heckenberg as well. The dress code will be enforced for the 26-27 school year. So we want to make sure that we have a dress code that is aligned with our community, with the board's expectations, and something that is enforceable. So if it goes there, it becomes a disciplinary issue if those expectations are not met.
Mr. Superintendent.
Yeah, if I may, I suggest that it stays there.
Okay.
But, again, we got to Mrs. Adams' point. That's the point I was just about to make, guys. This is just, we're going to have to trust our leaders. Guys, I can't remember a time when first of all, if a child's not clean, that's not necessarily a discipline issue. We're going to deal with and try to get that child help. I mean, we got to use some common sense here, guys. I don't know, I can never, ever remember in 30-plus years that child's been disciplined for being unclean, right? We have to use some common sense here. It is subjective, right? What is neat? What all the things we're growing? We know when certain things are out of control. We got to trust our leaders. We have to trust our professionals to make those decisions. So leave it in there, but please understand that we're just going to have to trust our professionals. Again, we know when things are extreme, we know when things are out of order, and we have to address it. Going back to the modesty things, we know the style of today, but we know when it's gone a bit too far, right? We want children to have self-expression. We wanted it when we were teenagers, right? You gave a great example about haircuts and all the things. Guys, we're here to educate children. At the end of the day, and if some is prohibiting that, absolutely, we're going to address it. But we also have to use some common sense, still allow our children to have self-expression to a certain degree, as we wanted it, as we should allow children to do it, but with limitations. And we're going to have to, in my professional opinion, we have to trust our professionals to make some of these decisions. Because we can't give an exhaustive list of what's ungroomed and all the things.
Mr. Rainwater.
If we're through with the dress code, it's a kind of a classical problem of school administration and things. But the deal about trench coats, I would believe that trench coats are not allowable, period. And I could tell you stories you don't want to hear about times I walked down the hall at Ellison High School and took loaded guns away from kids with trench coats. So to me, trench coats, period, should not be allowed on campus.
So I do not want to belabor the point.
Let me help you out. We're going to add hair.
We're adding hair back in.
We're going to trench coats.
Leave
or trimming.
trench coats.
And as I say these things, so if you have a problem with the statements I'm making, you need to say, hey, and guess what? You'll get a chance. But so hair back in.
Yes, sir.
Trench coats, not, yeah, they come back in.
Got it.
Are we missing anything?
We had a statement to add about DAEP being standard, our uniform dress at DAEP, at the alternative campus.
I personally am going to, I've got 7 days, I guess, well, more than 7 days. I'm going to look at the DAP a little bit deeper. I have some opinions on that, but
Okay.
yes, sir.
Could chime in there, and I understand that, and Mr. Metz and others have made some great comments, but I would give more context as to the why. If I remember you guys explaining, it makes sense to me. One of the things, if we can remember, we had an incident with, for instance, with sweats. It's not about, I understand the concern, but it's more about not dealing with belt buckles and them coming through. It's just making it, it's more streamlined, easier process of them coming through the checks. That's what it was more about.
Yes.
Then, so if y'all want to give more context as to the why, then we need to go back again. It's just, we're just going to do more due diligence as they're coming through that system.
Right.
Mr. Vice President?
I'm not saying change how you're doing things at DAEP.
Okay.
My point was simply an argument about the gross inconsistencies in what folks are standing up here telling me about what the purpose of DAEP is and then what their actions reflect. That was the only purpose in that comment. I defer to the leadership to make that decision.
Mr. Rainwater?
About sweats, I'm saying if our walk-through detectors are effective, and if our people using the detectors are well-trained and consistent and conscientious, we don't need to lower our values and let kids come in sweatpants. Doesn't make a bit of sense to me.
So what we did see, Mr. Rainwater, and we discussed this with that DAP 2.0 committee, was that students that came through, the rivets and the buttons, our systems are we're using the Garrett metal detector systems at the DAP campuses, and so they are a little bit higher sensitivity than we're running at the other campuses. And so that was requiring a deeper search just because of the buttons and the rivets on the jeans. And so it was actually putting our staff in a precarious position to have to actually pat and do those things during those searches. So with sweatpants, with no metal, if there is anything going off with the wand or with the walking through the walk-through Garrett machine, you know there's something been placed inside of that waistband or under those pants. It's not a part of the clothing. And so we can take those necessary steps to detain that and find what's going on there. Okay. Okay.
Thank you, though.
That was, okay.
Yes, sir, understood.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Trustee Gilchrist? I'm sorry. You sure? Madam Secretary.
I have one more question about, so on the campuses with the high school dress code, middle school dress code, they can wear sweats.
Yes, ma'am. As long as they're not,
And when we went away from that years back and had students wear jeans with belts, and the thought process was what? To improve the standards of expectation of dress for
Okay.
that campus. Was that not correct, or?
I don't have, I don't know that I have the context to be able to answer that question.
Okay, you've been on high school, secondary campuses, and you've
Yes, ma'am.
seen the sagging of the sweats?
Well,
And that's always been a discipline issue
I don't
as
think
well?
there was any discrimination between jeans, slacks, sweats when
The
it came
sweats
to
were
those
always
type
a
of things.
concern at middle school.
Yes.
But anyway, I was on that committee. I was not for sweats, but we'll move on.
Okay.
You good? TCAP, you good?
All right.
Did we muddy the waters up enough on that?
No, sir, I think it's very clear at this point, and
All right.
we will bring that back with those recommendations made. On page 63, you see the progressive discipline matrix for minor violations. This matrix will address tardies, IDs, and dress code violations only. Things like horseplay, inappropriate language, and selling items that was there before will still continue to be addressed. That's a high expectation, will still continue to be addressed under the other parts of the student code of conduct with the other types of misbehavior. We're just removing it from this matrix because these three things are the major things that come up in this minor. So this is the matrix where they get 4 violations, results in 1 referral every multiple of 4. And we're going to track that through our new system with Minga. And the students will be issued a progressive, so they'll start out with lunch detention, Saturday detention, go to ISS, and can potentially wind up with a DAEP placement if they do not change that behavior. But tardies, IDs, and dress code violations are going to be the ones that are addressed there in that matrix.
That it?
Is it? No, I've got a couple more, sir. On page 64, we had a note here on page 64 in the previous student code of conduct where we were requiring the DAP placement for students who are fighting. Again, we're continuing to have high expectations for student behavior while at school, and fighting will never be condoned in KISD. But the fighting is a discretionary offense, and so students choosing to fight will still receive a referral just like before, and they can be placed at DAP for that offense. We moved down from the required mandatory placement and the number of days on that placement, so we're taking that piece out because that was once something we weren't in practice. On page 65 to 69, we see the specific definitions for different types of misbehavior. However, we've removed the codes from those definitions. Those codes are for administrative use only. And again, we have not removed any of the expectations. None of the definitions have been taken out for these behaviors. We just want to remove anything that would create confusion for parents and students, and they know exactly what is going on there. Yes, ma'am.
So am I understanding that all code references in the student code of conduct have been removed?
When we
The
talk about,
codes, like
yes,
next to a violation, there was always a code number.
yes, ma'am.
And those code numbers were used as we go along for a PEIMS report, were they not?
Yes, ma'am.
And so we're not using coding for PEIMS anymore?
Oh, no, ma'am. So they're removed from the student code of conduct. We're still using them internally for administrative use to track those behaviors.
Okay.
So fights are still going to be coded as a 41. That is something that we have to
Okay.
report to the state. Those are still there, but just for clarity for the parents, what we had here is we had a number of codes that were defined separately, definitions of behavior that were defined separately, but they wound up with the same code. And so we had a lot of parents that were contacting our office that were confused. Well, it said this, but my student got a 100. And so it wasn't, a lot of those things, like, for instance, an example, a student that takes fireworks to school. That's not allowable. That's not something we're ever going to allow on our campuses. But when it got coded, it went in as a 100, which is a other serious. And so it became a little bit confusing for the parent. We want to direct and define the behavior and talk about the expectations and not get caught up in splitting hairs with it. Was it another example that I have that we have oftentimes is insubordination and defiance. Insubordination and defiance, when you looked at but they're two different codes. And so we wound up in an argument or a concern with a parent because, well, it was coded as insubordination and really was defiance. And so what it really was they were not behaving the way that we expect them to behave when they're in school. And so those things will be either coded specifically as the ones that are there, or go in as a 21 code, which is the state code for a student code of conduct violation.
Okay, so the rationale is to remove all the codes for parent clarity.
Yes, ma'am.
And what about new administrators that might use the student code of conduct as a reference for coding?
Fantastic. So we're creating an administrative disciplinary handbook. Mr. Rushton has been working on that already.
Okay.
And so when we train the principals and the campus administration, they're going to have that as an ongoing reference. Plus, we've provided them with code charts and quick reference documents where they can look and see exactly how to apply those codes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Madam Capito.
So I think it was last year that Ms. Felder had made a cheat sheet that kind of had progressive discipline on it. Do you remember that? Yes. Hi, Ms. Felder. How you doing? Okay. So there was this whole document, and it was kind of helping take some of the subjectivity away so that we could be a little more consistent on some of
Sure.
our campuses.
Sure.
Has that gone completely away? Are we adding that into this discipline handbook for the administrators? Like, are we using that? Where's that kind of at? Because we had started that, and it had kind of a good thing about, like, if you had an action, then maybe you were removed from the classroom. But then the second, do you remember this? I'm like, I know I didn't make this up. Okay.
One pager, after we started with the new student code of conduct.
So sorry.
Come on, Ms.
Didn't mean to
Felder.
put you on the spot. But as we're talking about an administrator handbook, we had something already in place. Just what happened to that?
Hi, Ms. Felder.
Hi, Micah. When the new student code of conduct came with all of the changes, then it stopped because it wasn't 100% aligned with the new changes in the laws. So we didn't push it out this school year. I still have it, and it can be tweaked if that is what you would like to have in this place. But we have a matrix that was created so that they have a specific matrix going down that's the same kind of thing, but a little bit more fine line, so it's more information than just the 3 levels, tiered levels, but it's in a matrix.
Okay.
So it's,
I'm not opposed or convinced on any of them. I just want something so that there's consistency and guidance, because you do have new administrators, or just sometimes things are subjective. I mean, what misbehavior to one is not necessarily, or someone's more tolerant than another. And I liked the fact that there was something that just gave them some visuals and some things that you had made previously, and then it kind of went away. So if we're going in a direction that's giving clarity, I'm great with it.
yeah, the matrix that Mr. Rushton's working on does the same thing, just a little bit smoother and more clear for all the new people that we have. Thank you. You're welcome.
Mr. Superintendent.
Yeah, Mr. Wells, I just wanted to go back and provide a little more clarity for our public and the board as it relates to that required DAEP placement for fighting. Because again, I want to be explicitly clear. We don't tolerate fighting. But what's happened here this past year, we had an overcrowding of DAEP because of zero tolerance. When we were coding fighting, guys, not fighting. All fights are not created equal. And what I mean by that, oftentimes, again, we got to trust our administrators to a certain degree. With a high level of professionalism, meaning sometimes when we have a pushing match, it wasn't quite, there's differentiating and there's levels to it. Does that make sense? To give them more discrepancy or discretion as it relates to kids? We absolutely will still send children to the DAEP for fighting when we deem it appropriate that it reach that level, as opposed to students in a pushing match and so on and so forth. So I just wanted to provide a little more context there, because we got out of compliance with TEA with the overcrowding of DAEP because principals had no discretion. they had to send every child if they had to code it as such. If that makes sense.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Wells?
Ready? And Mr. Williams, that is my last.
Questions? I think a last comment that at least I'm going to say is, for me, and there's been a whole lot said, how do the people that will have to live with this feel about the document?
It's a loaded question, Mr. Williams. We've gathered a lot of input, a lot of these discussions that we have around our office when we're talking about this student code of conduct and what does this read and how does this impact our students and our staff, comes because of those daily phone calls, that interaction, being on those campuses and seeing those things, working with our staff at DAEP and seeing the students that are there, working through our issues that we've had on that campus, on those campuses. So we want to provide a framework and a foundation for a student code of conduct that does set high expectations for behavior, for our students, because it's not only the students that choose to misbehave, but we also have to provide a high level of security for our students that are choosing every day to behave. And they deserve a great place to go to school as well. And so it's a long way to say, if we provide a student code of conduct that is clear, is consistent, and is enforceable, then the choice of the principals and administrators at that time is just how they're going to communicate to their students and how they're going to monitor and enforce it on their campus to the standard that you have put in place for our district. So I hope that answers your question, that they have input. We've collected that input over the course, since I've been in this chair. I've been collecting a lot of that information, both formally and informally.
Well, yeah, because so we will have a lot of opinions, but they have to live with it.
Yes.
And we're going to occasionally be on campuses here and there, and we may see some things, but in essence, can they be successful with it? Or are they going to be worried that, okay, here comes Brett's visiting the campus, or do they really believe in it? Because, see, when you believe in it, you're not worried about who shows up because you're living right, so to speak, by the rule. Versus, oh, man, we got to do this just because here comes Bishop's coming today. So we get, and that's not what you really want for your staff, because that means they don't really believe in it. And I can just tell you, from what I've witnessed the last several years, they don't believe in, they don't believe in it because I just look at how the kids are dressed. And I'm going like, well, I know that's not the dress code. And so we just got to get to a point where they believe in what they're trying to enforce, because you don't enforce it when you don't really believe in it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, Madam Secretary.
I suppose I need to go ahead and get this out of my system, and so we can move on. However, when we say that our campus principals are the instructional leaders for the children, we're concerned about improving middle school performance and academics, and then we're going to pile on top of that administrators and principals specifically who are now designated as hearing officers. I am very concerned about the amount of time that pulls a principal away from their ability to see instruction. If they're in the office and as the year goes on, behaviors mount up, people get more frustrated, adults can't deal with kids the way we really should deal with them sometimes, and we're just chalking it out. Okay, I'm done with you, you're going to hearing. I'm the principal. I'm done with you, you're going to... I'm really concerned about what that impact will be on the quality of instruction on a campus, especially students in the middle. And we've heard it over and over. We've got this epidemic that we're concerned about in our middle schools, but yet we're giving the middle school principals hearings. We no longer have district hearing officers, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
We no longer have district hearing officers, the due process officers for the school district. So now it is at the decision of each individual campus for that particular principal to determine due process. I think we made decisions on things that were not broken. I'm a former hearing officer. I know that office ran really well, the way it was designated. And parents came through feeling like, okay, here's the hearing officer for the school district, this designated office, not 50 campuses. So I really want to see the data. I would love to have seen it tonight to even know how many hearings did middle school principals or campuses have to do. And then for me to know, okay, well, how does that impact instruction? I'm very concerned that we're not utilizing and keeping the main thing the main thing. Principals in offices dealing with discipline and hearings and placement cannot see the quality of instruction as an eyewitness to it the way they need to see it. They can't work with new teachers. They can't work with long-term subs. They can't get to problems in the cafeteria because of discipline, because they're in offices overseeing discipline placements. And then we're going to have appeals, and I know it's in the book somewhere with who it's appealed to, and if, Dr. Davis, if you're comfortable with it, I'm going to have to be comfortable with it, but I just feel like we're moving in a direction that we didn't really need to change. We are just changing just to be doing something different. It was working. We had a PEIMS office, a secretary that oversaw all of our coding issues, and now the discipline secretaries at 50 campuses have to make sure we don't get PEIMS and coding issues for the entire school district. And that should be a big concern for everybody.
Mr. Superintendent, any feedback from Madam Secretary?
No, thank you, Madam Secretary. But yeah, certainly let's provide some clarity there. I'll turn it over to you all before I chime in. Go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. So one of the things when we looked at that situation is ultimately the principals aren't losing any time because they were already doing a campus level conference. And so that has now been replaced because they just do the campus level hearing. So in the past, they would have to execute a conference and then participate in the hearing heard by a district hearing officer. So they were basically having two meetings, which we've now scaled down to one. So it is a campus level hearing adjudicated by the senior administrator on the campus, who's responsible for everything that that campus fails to do or does. And then you brought up the appeals. Now the appeals are heard. The first level appeal is now heard by a district level representative. So we're moving up the chain from campus to district. And then the second level appeals are heard by a more senior administrator at the district level who has been a principal in the past and has that experience. And so we've actually reduced the amount of time that a principal is required to participate in the discipline process by reducing meetings that were similar in nature before they made a recommendation, before then someone at the district level assigned a punishment, and then the appeal process started. So we've reduced the workload of the campus principals in that way. We still have the checks and balances through student services, through the new department, to make sure that everything is done in concordance with laws and rules and regulations, to make sure things are coded properly and all processes are followed, to make sure that the coding is done appropriately as we move forward. So from a hearing standpoint, it is the same or less time now for a campus administrator to do this process. And we'll have more consistency because the student services team is hearing all of the appeals, so you're going to get consistency in the appellate process because it's the same individuals who have experience at these different echelons hearing the appeal process. And then it's the same three senior administrators hearing the level twos before they would come to a level three.
So what you just said, is that the principal initially was making a recommendation, and then it was going to a due process district hearing officer. And so that's done away. I understand eliminating a meeting for the administrator. I get that part. I'm also thinking through the lens of a parent who's thinking about, okay, you're making a recommendation, is this final? And then having due process to the parent's perspective. You see my child every day. When you get fed up, you just say they're out. And that's the concern I have. Initially, principals made recommendations, and then due process hearing officers finalized it. And then we had an appeal process. And so I'm just interested to seeing, I've seen the decisions have been made, but I'm really going to be very watchful to see how we advance through it.
Any other feedback? Everybody's hearts and minds clear? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
You told me it'd be easy when you walked up here. All right, we'll now move to agenda item D.
I'm sorry, Mr. President.
Okay.
Before you move on, would this be a consent agenda item? If it is, are we going to pull it or move it forward as consent?
I don't have it listed as a consent agenda
Okay.
item, but can't recall what the agenda next week says, but I'll make sure it's not a consent
Place
agenda
on
item.
next consent agenda to approve.
You're looking at, I'll change it. There you go.
That's the only reason I asked.
Yep, I know the one you're looking at now. I apologize. I'm just looking at the script, but I will make that adjustment. I'll make sure that I already got the head nod from the boss that will make that happen. So now we'll go to, we're good?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we'll go to D, discussion of the fiscal year 2027 district budget planning. Callan Vaden, welcome.
Thank you very much and good evening. We are going to continue our budget discussions for fiscal year 27. First, we're just kind of going to review what we have done so far. We have looked at the key drivers of revenues and expenditures, talked about revenue concerns. We know we're losing impact aid funding. We know we're losing ADA. And so tonight, we're going to look at where we currently stand as far as our working budget. Want to talk about, based on input from our last meeting, some kind of, I'm going to say, low-hanging fruit where we could get the data, and then continue our discussion as far as potential pay increase recommendations. This, you've seen many times. The only two items I want to point out at tonight's meeting, under revenues, the next to the last one. Remember, at this point, we have a 92% ADA, so that will again be discussed further in this presentation. And then likewise, under the expenditures, the very last item has a 95% vacancy factor, and so we're going to look at some options on that as well. Just again, to recap, the summary on the left, this was where we ended last budget meeting. We were looking at a $9.9 million potential deficit. The items on the right were multiple resources that have been included to address program needs, our laser-like focus on instruction, as we like to say, and additional safety and security items. First thing I wanted to go through tonight, these are two slides. One, the first talks about our surpluses and deficits over the prior fiscal years. These are the last years that have been audited. You will see that it's 25 because we have not completed our fiscal year 26. But you notice up until about 21, 22 was consistently increases as far as our surpluses were concerned. Then in 22, and particularly the last 3 years when a particular CFO came on board, things have gotten tighter. I'm going to say we've been less conservative than we had been historically, and so you will see that the surpluses have definitely decreased recently. Likewise, then that transfers into the SFP transfer conversation. Those surpluses would be the transfer into, or a portion of those would be the transfer into that strategic facilities plan. And so you, again, you will see pretty well matches up until about 22. And then at that point in 22, 23, because, let me make sure you understand this, in fiscal year 21, the surplus from the first chart determines the transfer in 22. So you have to finish the fiscal year 21, determines the transfer in 22. And so that's why there's kind of that year lag. But then do want to point out that because the last 3 years surplus have not been where they had been historically, 24 and 25, there was not a transfer into the strategic facilities plan. This is another chart. The purple columns are the same information from the previous chart. So this is your surpluses and the only deficit, you've got fiscal year 26 budget. And as you recall, we adopted a $4 million deficit budget. But that matches the surpluses from the previous screen. The green bars are the unassigned fund balance from those years. And to make sure you understand the blue line that goes across, the unassigned fund balance is the portion that we use to determine our 3 months operating. It's not total fund balance. Again, there are some items that are restricted or not available to use. They've already committed for whatever reason, and so it's the unassigned fund balance that goes into determining where we are as far as months in fund balance. And then you see the blue line there, historically where we sit or where we sat as far as meeting the requirement in policy to have the 3 months of operating expenditures in fund balance. And again, you can see the most recent years, we are sitting somewhere between the 3 and the 4%, around the 3.5 month, not percent, months, 3.5 months in our fund balance. This is just a review, but it was one of the items that we had talked about last week, discussion around the 321 early payment discount as far as our property taxes are concerned, and potentially generates $2.8 million. Since putting this presentation together, have talked and gotten replies from the tax appraisal district as to the timing of when what the board would have to approve before we could make this change. You would have to vote to eliminate prior to January 1 of the tax year for elimination. So if we approved in December, that would be January 1 of 27 is the 27 tax year. That determines our fiscal year 28 tax revenue. So we are past the point that we could do this for the fiscal year 27 year. Obviously, it would still be an option for the following fiscal year.
Just want to make sure you state that point again, so as we go through the budget process, if the elimination of the 321 was something this body wanted to consider, you would need to make that decision this year for the following year's budget, not the 26-27 budget, but for the 27-28 budget. You've got to be, in essence, a year ahead of the cycle. I just want to make sure everyone.
Approval on or before the end of December would impact our fiscal year 28 budget.
Thank you.
This, again, was a chart we had put in there regarding that 321 discount and the impact on the median value of residences within the district, and potentially what would have gone away had the 321 discount been eliminated. Again, potentially up to close to $30, and then it went down from there.
State that again. I just want to make sure everyone hears that. On the average home,
On the average home, the maximum amount, the maximum discount that would have been available, is available, I won't say would have, is available. If you paid a 3% discount, got a 3% discount in October, it would be $29.48.
that's on a $250,000 home.
That's on a $251,000.
So is it a safe assumption if you had a $500,000 home, it's $60? Or is it still proportionate like that? I'm no CPA.
It's not, because the homestead exemption is set. The homestead exemption, the $140,000, that's the max.
So it would be, that's the max then?
The $140,000, so even if you have a $500,000 home, it's still only a $140,000 homestead exemption.
It's even better news. Thank you. Make sure people think like we're just not, if the board was to do that, we're just not taking all your money.
So this next information, this is new, since we talked last meeting. One of the things we did talk about was, and within our assumptions, currently there's a 92% ADA. Looked at the last 5 years of ADA, and you will notice from 22 up until this current year, there have been increases each year. I think that's significant, and kudos to the team that's working on attendance. So with that said, then on the right side of this, you will see if we change our assumption and increase to any of those percentages, the additional revenue that would have to apply towards our budget. Does that make sense? So based on that, based on our kind of our historical average, but also based on, again, the trend that the years have been, the percentages have been increasing, recommendation was 93.25%.
Ms. Vaden, I see the recommendation from staff. Would you refresh everyone's mind of what the current year's ADA is budgeted on?
The
Say that.
current year is budgeted on 92%.
Okay. And the preliminary budget that we see is 92% as well.
That is correct.
And you have an asterisk, I noticed that during my review, of recommending, I want to hear you say it.
Yes. Based on this information, current recommendation would be to include 93.25% as our ADA,
For an additional,
$3.4 million.
thank you. Mr. Vice President?
Ms. Vaden, so, I mean, I'm just, again, I don't do math in public, but it seems like it should be 94 because it's going up 0.2% a year. Could you kind of walk me through the math on the 93.25?
Just basically pick rounded amount. So if we want to increase, again, that would be your discretion. But this was just kind of the ideas of potentially where we could land, and again, the conservative piece. If you want to go higher, we can go higher.
Don't threaten me with a good time. Like, I think,
But again, I want to, the very first slide with where the surplus is and any transfers available, you realize the more you diminish any surplus, that's going to impact.
right, I mean, I'm not,
But ultimately, you will have to approve our
I'm
budget.
not trying to put any
so
pressure
it's
on
your-
Ms. Felder or anything, but, I mean, yeah, I don't, okay. I think we can discuss the number. Thank you.
Okay.
Two on the other end, Mr. Rainwater.
I was just wondering, Callan, if the average daily attendance includes all those weighted daily attendance figures for special education students and other students who might fall under that weighted category?
We did
Or is
not.
that separate?
The weighted student counts, I did not adjust at all in this calculation.
Do you think it'd be significant? Oh, never mind.
Potentially. Let me backtrack. There is some additional special education weighting, both in number of students, and also there's a new, there's evaluation funding. And so there is some increase in there in that, but this specific example is entirely regular ADA.
So it wouldn't likely be significant, but at 0.25, that's almost 700,000.
Again, that's y'all's discussion.
Madam Capito?
Mr. Mintz, you're getting a little too risque over there. That's a lot. I'm a little nervous about that. I just wanted to say, so if we did that tax appraisal, that we would be giving our citizens more than a year notice that was going to occur.
That would be correct.
I mean, I really like that would be an opportunity that they would know it was coming if we chose to go that route. I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, it's a great point. Thank you.
Madam Jones?
So, Mr. Mintz, the next day, sometimes we regret the good times. So I'm more conservative. I'd like to stay at the 93, whatever. But my concern is we're making this assumption on a number of students in our seats, and we really don't know what those numbers are going to look like when the school year rolls around. So
That's-
how many students are we planning this number off of? 39,000, 28,000, 43,000?
I 100% agree with you. I'm going to tell you, the whole budget is a projection and assumptions and
know.
estimates.
I
Very
know,
educated.
I know, that's why
but
I get a little nervous
a
about
budget is
this
a plan.
number, because we can't really say that number is even close.
Correct.
So I would be rather, I would caution us to stay at the 93.25 if you feel you can make that happen. So,
The correct,
I
res-
feel
the
very
correct
comfortable
response.
that team can make it happen.
I was going to say, the correct response is you're not making that
Yeah,
number happen. The folks
I'm not
over there
making it
are.
happen. Absolutely.
Okay.
If I, sir, if I just.
Mr. Hickenberg.
The other things, we just recently had a PEMS review as well, and we also are aware, that as we track attendance, to Ms. Jones's point, there's risk there that if we ever were to be audited and our attendance isn't right, there's, that revenue is there, so we don't want to blade run as much as we possibly could, because we're trying to protect ourselves against potential risks at other times. And so I think as we get through the slide, we've tried to push the envelope a little bit more than we have in the past to make up some of that ground, but we're trying to see how that falls out. We don't want to push too far to the right, and, not leave us much margin.
And an additional comment to add, we will have the opportunity, should we need it, to do a budget amendment. If we get into, the fall, Christmas, and we see that we have absolutely missed the target, again, we'd have to make some decisions of what that would look like and potentially where we pull back. But we would certainly have the opportunity and awareness to change our budget and move funds accordingly. Okay. That's true. You're right. You cannot pull money back that you've spent, but you can certainly look at money you have not spent. All right. One of the other things that we talked about was our vacancy factor. So again, kind of looked at the last several years of our vacancy factor. The top row across, you'll see for each of the past fiscal years, you will see the staffing snapshot budget from each of those years, and then look at the actual expenditure of salaries for that year. So the unspent amount, you can see for each of those years and the percent that represents. So again, in fiscal year '21, there was about a 9.9% of that budget left. In fiscal '22 and '23, it got tighter, and there were 6% and 5%. And then the last two completely finished fiscal years were 8% and then 9.5%. So took an average of that, 7.8%. And again, the most recent years carry a little bit more weight. So very similarly, based off of that, looked at some options of what changes to our vacancy factor would look like. And so you see the various percentages across the top. Again, the 5% is where we are now. And then if you gradually increase that, the bottom row, you can see what impact that would have to our fund balance. Again, very similarly, recommendation based on that average. And again, the more recent years looked at 7.5%, which is 9.9 million.
Mr. Vice President.
Ms. Vaden, I think it's my fourth budget cycle. It's my recollection for at least the last three that every time we've had this discussion, we have, I'm trying to say it correctly, we've shrunk, right? We've shrunk the vacancy factor that we budget on. So you would think that as we shrink, or am I wrong on that?
I
Or am I
believe
saying
you
it
are
backwards?
wrong. I was going to say, when I came, it was a fixed dollar amount each year. And I believe it was my first year, if not my second year, that's when we went to the percentage. And I think initially had like 98% and went to a 95% kind of for this similar reason. but we have not gotten smaller.
So maybe I'm saying it backwards, right? Right, so.
That's
so-
true, it does get confusing.
Right, but so what I'm saying is, you would think that as we shrink the factor or increase, as we change that number, the whole intent was to have less and less amount unspent, and yet it seems we're moving, the lines should be converging, but they're diverging.
I don't think that was the intent. Again, we know there are going to be either open positions, staff that are out on, some type of leave but don't actually have leave available, so they have to get docked. And so it's more of, again, trying to determine a percentage of that
Right, so-
that will be left.
Maybe I'm not saying it correctly. What we did is when we budgeted, we shrunk our margin of error. We were saying we were trying to cut that unspent money down and put it back and budget for it. The risk we took there is if there was some change, then we could potentially go below the line. But instead, it seems like we've shrunk that, yet the amount that's unspent has increased. It almost seems counterintuitive to me. Am I making any sense, Mr. Baker?
Yeah, there's a lot of variables to take into account that I think Ms. Vaden pointed out.
But again, if you've got a fixed amount,
Yeah.
if you are tightening and expecting to have higher, the higher you go, the less money you're going to have to spend. Did I say that right?
Yeah, I don't want to get down any further down the
Okay.
rabbit hole than I already am. I guess my point is, I would have expected that number to decrease, not increase, which tells me that we probably have a little more planning fudge factor in there than these numbers would bear out.
I would agree with that, Steve.
I wouldn't agree with that.
Madam Jones.
So earlier in the presentation, you showed us that for the last 2 years, we have not transferred excess funds into the Strategic Facilities Fund.
That is correct.
And over the years that I've been here, we've done that through multiple sources of income that's come in, impact aid being one of the largest ones, and then additional funds that may have come in from on the vacancy factor, things like that. So in the last 2 years, we've not transferred anything in.
Correct.
So that tells me that we didn't have those extra funds to do that with. So we probably didn't have any of those extra funds that came from the vacancy factor because those funds were already spent on something else.
That's correct.
So,
As we have increased that percent,
yeah.
that's going to
So,
be less that you have available
yeah.
to
So
transfer. You're correct.
all we're doing is moving numbers from one side of the paper to the other, and it's just, yeah. But when the pot's empty, the pot's empty. So we have to make sure that we have a little bit there. So I don't know. I think you're 7.5 on the vacancy factor. I would be comfortable with that. And we can do amendments as we go along, but I would feel comfortable with the 7.5.
And Mr. Mintz, maybe this would help clarify. Again, that top row is our snapshot budget. So we have, that number has gone down. Again, with the closing the schools and those kinds of things, that number has gone down. So your percents are getting applied to a different amount each year.
Mr. Williams and I were just talking about.
Okay. All right. Here's our continuation of our GPI discussion. The top two have not changed. Again, the rationale behind the first one, the $50 per month, the increase to our health insurance cost for an employee went up by $46, so rounded that up to $50 a month. Would come up to $600 annually, and the plan would be, that would be for every employee. The second option shows what a 1% across the board would be for all employees. You see below that, the breakdown exempt and non-exempt, if that was, you know, the way we wanted to go. You'll notice there's an asterisk there, so have included that. We'll talk about that in a second. Then the bottom two are, we've done that in the past, one-time retention payments. Looking at the next to the last one, the $500, and that's a net check. That's not the gross check, that's the net check. Again, what that would cost for all staff is the 4.8 million, broken down below that by non-exempt and exempt. And then very similarly, the last one is a one-time retention, but it would be a $1,000 net check. And what that would, again, below that breakdown between exempt and non-exempt. So you notice the asterisk. At this point, recommendation would be the $50 per month, and again, that's everybody, that ties into the health insurance increase, and then a 1% for non-exempt staff.
Madam Jones.
When you say $50 a month for everyone, does that include the ones who are not taking our insurance?
Because this would actually go into salary, yes, it would include every employee.
All right, thank you.
All right. So with that said,
Okay, hold on. Mr. Rainwater.
The insurance premium of $50 a month, if I remember correctly, Tad told us that that's going to go on for the next 10 years and the next 5 years by statute when we went with TSTA or when.
with
TRS.
I was going to say, I believe his was a maximum
Next 5.
percentage, but it wasn't the dollar amount.
Right, over the
So it
next
could be-
5,
Yeah.
and it's an average over the 5 years of 10%.
And I think it's capped at 10% growth, but it's not the $50, well, the $46.
I don't think it's a cap. I think it's a target that they have for, it averages a 10% over the 5 years each year.
So that could be, won't be less, we know it could likely be more over
You
the
mean
next.
the next year? I would expect that to happen.
Thank you, thank you.
Mr. Vice President.
Just want to make sure I understand. Exempt are teachers?
Teachers would be exempt.
Teachers are exempt. Okay, I just want to make sure that we're getting the 1% raise to our hourly employees.
Okay. So with that said, on the left side of this screen, that's where we were again at the end of the last meeting. We were looking at a $9.9 million deficit. On the right side of the screen, there are currently two options listed. The first one, well, it's really the second one, I guess. The one on the right that would include the elimination of the 3-2-1 discount. Again, that's not an option for us anymore. And so you see the row that said 3-2-1 discount elimination, that one showed an increase of potential revenue of 2.8. That's not an option. So ignore the far right column. So then at this point, if you look at the one that does not include the elimination of the 3-2-1 discount, the working revenues and expenditures, those have not changed. That still would equal the $9.9 million deficit. If we go with the recommended ADA percentage increase, that would add $3.5 million. Again, that can't eliminate the 3-2-1 discount, so that would be 0. The vacancy factor adjustment would add $9.9 million. And then the recommended pay increase would be a $5.9 million decrease. So that would put us at a $2.4 million deficit currently.
Madam Capito. No question? You're just dropping the mic right there, Ms. Faden, or you just?
Well, no, I've got some more after this. The only other thing I do want to point out, raised discussion on the next agenda. There will be an item to vote. So really need to either tonight or in your discussions with Dr. Davis. Be prepared to make a vote next week in order to get that onto an August paycheck. Not next week, next meeting.
Ms. Vaden, but so it's still showing the 2.4, so are you going to tell this group where I think I know, but I don't want to assume, where's the 2.4 coming from? I know what you're going to say, but go ahead and let's articulate.
At this point, it would probably be your state comp, or what was previously your state comp fund balance. And
Well, I
again,
just-
that does very much, the current year's budget was a $4.2 million deficit, so it very
And that's what I
much
wanna make sure,
is in
so-
line with the last 2 years.
So everyone who's at home or someone who's watching for the first time or a new educator to the system, so that's a dollar amount that we can only leverage when,
When a deficit budget is adopted. Because of the fund balance is the accumulated surpluses or deficits from previous years, the only way to access that is to adopt a deficit budget.
and what's our excess above the 90-day? For those that might say we're setting on all this money.
Ooh, I'd have to go back and look at that. I don't have an exact number as far,
Okay.
we're sitting at 3.8 months,
And what's our balance on our state comp ed?
33 million.
So at this rate, but we anticipate potentially there's going to be, if my memory serves me correct, we said something about a potential law change or something where maybe you,
It's not potential, that has happened.
okay,
So they have removed some of the requirements, the spending percentage requirements related to state compensatory education. And so the reason that money was set aside and committed previously no longer exists. So that does allow us to use it for, in general, funding deficit budgets as needed.
so it's no longer restricted funds. It could be spent anywhere within our budget as long as it's to educate our children.
Correct.
Okay. Madam Jones?
Ms. Vaden, to clarify on this sheet, the GPI recommendation, that's the pay raises that you're talking about on the
Correct.
previous page?
Correct.
So on the previous page, you have asterisks by the $50, which is $3,428,678.
Correct.
And then the next one, that's asterisk, is $3,127,805.
If it may not be clear, the asterisk is only beside the non-exempt staff amount below that, the 2.4.
Okay, all right, because I was adding those up and I
Yeah.
was coming up with a different number.
Yeah,
Not to split hairs, but
yeah,
$1 million
it's-
bucks
yeah,
is
it's
$1 million
dif-
bucks.
It's difficult to tell, but it is only the non-exempt staff amount.
All right, thank you.
Give me 1 second, Bishop. Let me grab Madam Capito down there.
I want to go back to what Brett said. He was talking about the money that we have in our reserves. You said it's 3.8. I got a lot of phone calls, and of course, the paper liked to pick up things sometimes, that we were just sitting on all this extra money. We are required to have at least 3 months in our reserves, and that's the money we were referencing. It
Correct.
wasn't like
That's
we
by
had.
policy.
We didn't have an extra $300 million sitting in the bank. This is our required funding, that if we didn't get things, is that what I?
Yes. As far as the 300 million sitting in the bank, we also have an investment report later, and I was going to address that at that time.
Okay, that's fine.
Trustee Gilchrist?
All right, I just want to make sure I'm clear. The $50 a month, $600 annually is for all employees?
Yes,
And then there's another 1% that's going to go to the non-exempt.
correct,
So they'll get that 50 plus the 1%.
correct.
Okay.
Mr. Vice President?
So state comp ed, 33 million, correct?
Correct.
So we can, using, if we go for 2 million this year, we can go for another 15 years, 2 million a year. That money's not going to expire, it's not going to disappear, nor is it going to get added to.
That is correct.
Okay. So every time we tap into that, that's a finite resource,
Correct.
correct? Okay. Regarding the amount of money that we have on, is our rainy day fund and any money above that. So what we are required to have 90 days.
Correct.
That's a month and a half, or 3 months.
months.
And we are at 3.8, right now.
As of the end of the last audited year, we do not have fiscal year '26 yet.
Okay. All right, just want to make sure I got the numbers right in my head. Thank you.
Questions? Trustee Gilchrist.
Okay. So I can make this make sense to me. The non-exempt staff people, that's the bus drivers, the cafeteria workers, those people, the
Bus
hourly
drivers,
employees.
custodians,
Yes.
yes.
Are we getting close to the $16 an hour rate, or is there any way to see that?
We could pull that together. We have information on what it would take to get to $15 an hour minimum. Again, the important piece to that is, as I say, to keep the integrity of the pay system and keep those staggered based on experience. And so to do that, it would be 6.6 million.
It's, we ran these numbers back last October. We were asked to look into this when we were looking at the budget. Because of the issues that Ms. Vaden just talked about, to maintain stratification between the tier 1 and up, to go to a $15 floor would have cost an additional, this is a rough order of magnitude, $10.2 million to make that change from where our floor right now is 13. And to go hypothetically to an $18 floor is 30.5 million because of maintaining that stratification up. So we're making progress, but we're not there yet.
And obviously, at whatever point you do that, that's in essence in perpetuity.
It's forever. Yeah, it
Correct.
doesn't go away. Mr. Superintendent.
Yeah, Cal, I just wanted to talk about fund balance just for a second, just for public consumption, just make sure for clarity. So, because currently, what's sitting there currently? 160?
In total, 190.
190, all right, so let's just say,
Unassigned is 143, I believe.
Gotcha.
143 million.
so let's just say for easy math, whatever, that's because we're 0.8, right? We shall have at least 3 months. We have an additional, right? 0.8 or 8 months about. So let's just say that probably would equate, I'm gonna do some guesstimation here. Let's say about 30 million, 30 to 40 million. Would you agree? Somewhere along that pot? 50, I hate to put you on the spot. Let's say 30 to
If you
50
say it,
million
I
dollars.
agree.
Okay, so all you gotta do is just divide by 4, basically, 3.8, right? Just do the math. My point is, it is not recommended, it is not good, it is not fiscally sound, first of all, to give raises with fund balance. That's a recurring cost. So we are taught and we are advised, you can do capital outlay with those types of funds. I want to be clear as it relates to that. And as it relates to, when we talk about 50-ish campuses and the needs we have, that doesn't even begin to, that's just a drop in the bucket on what we need as a district to start addressing our building needs, our roofing, it's all types of things. It's absolutely have an influx of monies that we could do some capital outlay things within fund balance. But at some point, we're going to need to talk to the public about what really that would cost us to bring our buildings up to speed. But we don't necessarily need additional monies to build schools. We have been declining in enrollment, but we do have to have upkeep of our buildings. And so I want to be clear on that. So we have to continue to think about that and so on and so forth. So I just want to clarify that. We don't give raises, or we should not, with fund balance monies.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Okay, before I leave this slide, I'm going to say it one more time. Next week, we're going to need a vote. So at this point, that's the plan. So if that really is something you would object to or want to change, we need input before the next meeting.
Let's just do this. Roll back 4 slides and go through all the asterisks which represent the staff's recommendations and just say, hey, gonna let you know,
Oh,
this is
okay.
what's coming. This is
that's
not
not
changing
there.
unless people start kicking and screaming up here. And I think we're there because we're not kicking and screaming, but let's just get good clarity for you.
Okay. Then the next couple of slides are going to be what you have seen in the past, just those next steps. Again, the third and the fourth one have to do with the pay increases and finalizing compensation decisions, and that's on the next agenda as an action item. Other than that, the rest has not changed. And again, the dates for adoption, none of these have changed. Looking at, again, on the 28th, that meeting would be general pay increase. The next couple of meetings, we will have our property tax values from the appraisal district and get our maximum compressed rate from TEA. And then beyond that, the official notices, public hearing, and budget adoption on the 25th. And that's it for me, unless y'all have additional questions.
You didn't quite do what I wanted, but I'm going to help you through it. So I want to make sure, on the ADA, we're going with the staff recommendation. Everybody understands that, which is going up on the ADA. The vacancy factor, we're going up with the staff recommendation. And then we're doing the raises as outlined on the recommendations with the asterisks in the presentation. There you go. That's the clarity I want to make sure you had. Nobody's kicking and screaming or anything, so you're good to go.
Good. Thank you. Then that's it for me, unless y'all, again, had other questions.
Trustee Rainwater, you good down there? Go ahead, grab the mic. I know when you want to grab the mic and talk.
Show me again about the staff pay raises.
Oh, I gotta find it.
Thanks, Brett. I think this is really the bishop's question.
So, again, the $50 per month is intended to match increase in health insurance,
Okay, and that goes to.
whether they take that or not. But that's the intent, that matches increase in health insurance
And the
costs.
1% to all employees, if you're doing it for non-exempt staff, it's $2,000,004.
Correct.
And then exempt staff, they're gonna get a 1% as well, but the total there is $641. No.
That's
Only
not,
the
that's not the
$50.
that's not the recommendation currently.
Yeah, that's not good for me.
Let's talk.
Well, I think our exempt staff needs to at least get the 1%.
That pushes in the 641, which takes us then from 2.4 to basically to 3 million, heck?
I think we gave our non-exempt staff a significant pay raise last year. Way, trying
Last
to
year
reach that
was,
$16 floor.
I was gonna say, last year was the increase to the minimum $13
Oh,
per hour
okay.
floor.
All right.
But again, that was the floor. That was not the stratification piece. That was just the floor.
Yeah, okay, thanks, Colin. I'd like to see a 1% for all employees, if we're gonna get it for non-exempt. If we're not, then give it non-exempt the same 50 a month. Personal preference is 1% for all employees.
You want 1% across the board.
Yes, sir, I do.
I support that. I mean, but we need to know, because she's going to bring it to us. Anyway, we're going to vote for one of the two. Does anyone have an issue with seeing that being adjusted to being the 1% being across the board and what the initial presentation is next week that we need to vote on, correct, Callan?
Correct. And I mean, if you feel really strongly, we could have other options. Again, we just need to have a vote next meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, to be clear, we have to have a vote on the general pay increase, not the budget.
Correct.
To have the GPI approved so we can get it into the August pay.
Exactly.
We have to forecast for it, and it's not the overall budget we're approving next meeting, just the GPI, so we can get it into the budget in time so employees would see the increase.
Right. Mr. Vice President.
Just to make sure for 1% for all, as Mr. Rainwater is proposing, that would be 3.1.
Correct.
Whereas if we did the $50 a month for everyone, that would be 3.4 million. So that would be putting more money in employees' pockets.
Yes, both would be putting more money in employees' pockets.
Or if you do,
All we're doing is that.
right, but I'm saying that's what that is.
That's inclusive of both of those already.
Right. But I'm saying is if we didn't do the 1%, but we did the $50 a month, that's putting more money in employees' pockets than doing a 1% raise. We're doing both? Okay.
So this is,
Okay, I got it. Okay, so it's okay, I understand. Thank you. I apologize for being a math idiot.
Now, you made the comment that you made the comment like you got some more toys in your pocket. What are you talking about?
I did not say we have more. If you want to see some other combination, we could bring that. But again, we just need to feel comfortable that we would get to a consensus if we had other options to discuss.
If you're stating those other combinations involve increasing compensation for employees, I think people would want to see, I definitely know there's one other person up here with me that want to see that. Or are you talking about trying to be more conservative and it be less? Not personally.
Whatever is the desire of the board.
I would say give us some options at a bare minimum, 50 a month for the health, 1% for all employees, and let's see, let's play Oliver Mintz here. Let's get a little frisky and see what we might be able to do to get a little more in there and see what the appetite is for the group. 2%.
Okay.
2.5%.
That's going to double.
I mean, I was good where we were, but you opened up the toolbox, and so I said, that's good.
I was good with 1% for all, but if there is a wiggle room up to consider, then could we not?
Again, you're going to adopt the budget.
Go ahead,
so-
Mr. Rainwater.
I need to understand Ollie's crazy math. So if we gave employees $50 a month for the insurance deal, which would be $600 annually, would that be more than the 1% pay raise for all employees?
No, that's,
Or does that up to the $50 a month absorbed?
I think it
In
is more.
total, it would.
Yeah.
so I think,
I don't want to give them a pay cut.
Hold on. Want to make sure, let's stay in order.
I don't want to take, I want, at the end of the day, I want employees to have a 1% minimum plus the $50 a month annual.
Mr. Rainwater,
I haven't been clear.
that's my understanding of what the
Oh, okay,
recommendation was. It
okay.
was not either or, it's both.
That's where we're at now. We've moved there. No, you're fine. Okay. Madam Jones.
so just to clarify, as I understand, because I asked that question earlier when my math didn't add up. So I had added 6 million and some change, and you had 5.9 on this previous screen. It was because you weren't including the 641,200.
That is correct.
So now with Mr. Rainwater's suggestion, we would be adding that number, 641,200, which
is-
now would change that 5.9.
That is
And so
correct.
we would have a deficit then of 3.1
Basically-
approximately.
Correct.
Am I?
You
Okay,
are
thank
spot on.
Thank you.
And Ms. Vaden, is the $50 a month, is that a stipend or is that a pay increase?
That is a pay increase.
Okay.
So you're going to bring some options that are above 1% across the board next week for us to consider. I think we're at a baseline now of thinking there's a general consensus of 1% across the board in addition to the $50 a month for all employees. Correct? And then I'm going to let Heck, maybe Heck has a better plan.
Sir, my recommendation would we stop where we are. Here's the issue is, again, we're already projecting a deficit budget with this pay increase. We're also exploring strategic compensation routes that give us some time to adjust how we do compensation writ large across the district. Because once we put the pay raise in, we don't want to have to pull it back at any given time. And so we're already projecting a deficit. We don't, as Dr. Davis very clearly articulated, we don't want to have to dip into other accounts to continuously pay for a recurring cost every year that we don't have, because eventually we'll run out of fund balance to make up the difference. And so we need to stay conservative. I remind everyone, the very first briefing when we started with where we sit currently, we already are at the top of the compensation in the area. We're not perfect across the board with the non-exempts. We acknowledge that, and we have ground to close. But we've got to stay fiscally conservative, because the other aspect that Ms. Jones talked about is because we are doing these other things to balance the number due to the loss of impact aid, this is, we're going to have less in the savings account at the end. And so we've got to save some for that rainy day, and we've got to stay fiscally conservative and not get too extravagant, and I know that sounds a little harsh from my end, but we've met the objective of a pay increase plus a relatively balanced budget, and the more we add to it, the more we dip into these other savings that, in a couple of weeks, Mr. Rich brings the long-range facilities plan and that price tag that's going to come with that. It's going to be a pretty impressive number that we need to budget for. So I would just caution, to continue chipping away at it. I think we've met most of the requirements that we thought we had to come back with a pretty good plan, and maybe we stop where we're at.
I'm going to challenge that.
I want a point of clarification. What exactly do you mean by stay as we are?
Exactly what we're proposing here, sir. The $50 a month for everyone that match their health insurance, and the 1% for all employees. I'd be okay with that. So the 1%
I was going to say, you're not going to win that battle. I'm about to say.
Yeah, the 1% for all. So those two, so those top two lines, so approximately 6.5 million and some change in GPI moving forward.
You good, Mr. Rainwater?
I'm good, sir, thank you.
Okay, I'm going to challenge.
Always not.
I'm going to challenge one more thing, though. And y'all may say this can't happen, because I think you all know I don't favor across-the-board raises. I mean, if it's not a COLA, if it's not cost of living, we're just giving it out, everybody gets the same thing. I'd be interested in seeing some type of plan that sets, I don't know if it's $1 million or $2 million aside, that we go out and we reward those that bust their tails and come back with. I want principals that have A-rated campuses to be compensated more than others. I want principals that demonstrate the most growth to be compensated more than those that don't. I want to see teachers that knock it out the box with growth in their classroom to be compensated more than others, because I want people to be hungry to be great. I'd love to see some type of plan to get something in place, just to say that's how serious we are about it. I don't know how you do it, but I mean, I don't know. Okay. Mr. Vice President.
So by moving this, by increasing what we would potentially spend on a GPI, does that in any way limit performance compensation package or a performance compensation program that y'all may be working on?
Doesn't limit, I mean, we're already exploring it. We're already in the cohort working that piece. There are some things that, could adjust, based on that piece, how we grandfather things in from our existing pay structure that would change potentially in a strategic compensation plan. Because I agree with what Mr. Williams just said, is that's ideally the exact goal, is to reward those that are doing the work well. Across the board. And that's what Mr. Baker is leading those efforts to do, to move us towards a plan that way. I don't know if we want to do it partially now, which I think is kind of what you're talking about, is starting small implementation of that, and then have to adjust depending on where that cohort leads us and where that overarching policy gets to.
My only point was I don't want to make a decision here that limits your ability. I absolutely think that's the right thing to do. I just don't want to limit it.
Madam Jones.
So I can always buy into something of that nature, because you get paid for performance in industry and et cetera. But at the same time, we have to keep in mind, TEA has already stepped up to the plate to try to do that with the TIA bonuses or pay scales increases that they've been giving. And it's up to us as a district to write some of that in, to apply for who can qualify for those things and et cetera. Is that correct? And so, but a TIA benefit is fairly significant for some of our teachers and our staff. And so I would argue that we're already doing that to some degree, not specifically from our budget, because that is additional money that comes from TEA to do that. And then if we redo what we've talked about, puts a little bit more money in our coffers too. So we have to work that end, I think. So But I don't know that we can start tinkering around with those kind of numbers this year, especially with impact aid still sitting out there in the shadows, and each year it gets worse. You know, it's a little bit less money next year. So
I'm going to state it again. I want to see some type of plan that rewards achievement at the highest level, as opposed to just giving across-the-board raises. I get that we're going to do some of that, but what is the motivation to be the absolute best principal in this district? You're going to get the same raise that everybody else gets. What is the motivation to be the best math teacher? You're going to get the, now I get it, there's TIA, but I'm just going to tell you all this. This is not what someone told me. This is what I heard with my own ears. The commissioner, he does not favor these type of raises that we're doing. He favors performance-based raises for educators. Mr. Superintendent, am I exaggerating that statement? And I'm just saying, we can wait, we can get on board now and say, there's a reason he's having these big gatherings telling people this. We're going to wait for him to say, well, here's what you got to do now. And it makes sense. It makes sense to reward those that are getting it done. But anyway, I'll leave it alone. But I still think maybe we could set some money aside while y'all work through a plan, and then at the end of the year, maybe mid-year, we make an announcement that, hey, here's going to be our incentive plan for teachers that achieve at this level. I get it, there's TIA, but I'm saying in addition to, and then here's how we compensate principals that achieve at this level. So, Madam
I
Capito.
believe that's the direction and the understanding that Mr. Baker's working towards. Absolutely.
And I agree with Ms. Jones about we do have TIA, but there's also a lot of our teachers that are not eligible for TIA because of how the program is built out. And so we can take that into consideration, but this is going to have to be a combination, I think, of several different budget items, TIA being one bucket. I always put buckets. I like to fill buckets of money. But one bucket is TIA, but then one bucket is what you're talking about. We have to have all of these to be able to actually make a full budget, because I love that there is TIA, but it's not fair that it's not available for all of our teachers and people who are still working really hard. And I want to see some equity, and maybe some of that equity comes through what you're talking about. And so I think we just need to be creative and find ways to fill buckets of money.
Madam Secretary.
Yes, it's very reassuring to hear that the finance team and y'all are working on a plan for performance merit pay. If we possibly could have a timeline that you could bring us something to look at that would show some of the things that we're talking about. Because instead of talking about it, we need to be about it. If we can't talk about money until we see the plan. Because we can sit up here all day and wish, and I'd like to see something more concrete about what you all are working on. As you're saying, well, we are there, we're working on something like that. If you could even give us any indication what that might look like, it's very helpful for me.
I'm going to defer that to Mr. Baker.
Yeah, we can put together a presentation for you on what the timeline
No, I
looks like.
appreciate that, thank you.
Mr. Rainwater.
I just was going to say that I understand the commissioner's point about performance pay and improving education, but at the same time, we're in a competitive environment. And we got to be able to get people to want to attract some folks. It's a balance, it's a hard balance.
And I think, Mr. Rainwater, your point is valid, and that's why I view the cost of living, because that's why when I say you compensate at a certain rate, because you want to ensure that their living can be adequate, and that's why you provide cost of living adjustments. And so you say, hey, at a bare minimum, our educators are at a livable wage, so to speak. But then you say, now, but so you're there, but then what about those that say, man, I want to get a little more? And it's like selling used cars. I mean, you eat what you hunt, or what's that saying? I need to ask Buckley. She'll tell me, because her son's in, I mean, I won't say it. Someone will say it. But anyway, I'm just saying, teachers will be more motivated to get it done. When we have some type of system that says if your ADA on your campus is this, if your referrals are this, if your growth is this, principals are going to be motivated to do those things, especially if they know there's some compensation. And I'll leave it to the smart folks to figure out what that looks like, and so it doesn't break any laws or break the bank. But at the end of the day, and we talk about there's only so much money and ADA's dropping, but if you start achieving at a high level, you'll have more kids coming to your district. you start achieving at a high level, you have more teachers wanting to teach on that campus because they'll say it's an A-rated campus. And that's how you launch your career, not because you were stuck at an F campus. You launch your career because you were achieving at a high level, leading a B or an A campus. So anyway, I'm off my soapbox. All hearts and minds? Clear? All right. Thanks, Callie. Hey, you're doing a great job. Seriously, on how you're presenting the information, I'm very pleased. I hope my trustees share my feelings on that, but it's very informative and paints a pretty clear picture.
Thank you.
All right, we'll now move to E, and I'm going to look over at our counsel, Joey Moore, for the board operating procedures, which I've got those listed to be able to talk about those in closed session. So if I choose not to want to talk about them now, I'm going to just skip over that, and we may come back to that after we talk about it in closed session. I'm not breaking any rules. Thank you. Okay, we're now going to go to 5, which is a consent agenda. And I need Joey Moore, can you come here? Can I ask you one question real quick? Can I have it in a
sir.
sidebar conversation, or I have to talk on it?
No.
I can? I'd rather sidebar conversation. All right. All right, here we go. All right, let's go. Consent agenda 5. These are items that can be voted on by one single vote of the board. If there's an item that wants to be removed, a trustee could request that. I think we're all good with all the items remaining on. So A, receive and approve minutes for the June 9th, 2026 workshop meeting. B, receive and approve minutes for the June 23rd, 2026 regular meeting. C, receive and approve minutes for the June 25, 2026 regular meeting. This is an action item. Madam Secretary.
Mr. President, I move to accept the consent agenda items 5A, B, and C as written.
We have a motion by Secretary Adams. We have a second by Madam Capito. Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor of the consent agenda as presented, let me see a show of hands. We have 7 in favor, none in opposition. Passes unanimously. Thank you. We'll now move to 6 action items for consideration. A, consideration of district educational facility specifications. Welcome, Mr. Adam Rich.
Thank you, sir. In advance of presenting the district's long-range facilities master plan on August 25th, we're bringing forward an update to the district's educational specifications, which will become a component within the long-range plan. Texas Administrative Code requires districts to create educational specifications. They serve to combine a new facility's instructional programs with the physical conditions that are needed to see those instructional programs carried out. In early 2020, the district commissioned Huckabee to assist in assembling educational specifications for all new district facilities, and those were approved by the board on January 12th of 2021. Prior to this, the district did not have these documents, so code requires them to be updated every 5 years. So the district staff from all the departments that are mentioned within these documents, and we have a separate document for elementary, middle, and high school facilities. District staff have reviewed all of these, and we incorporated many changes to bring it up to our latest standards. These specifications not only identify the TEA recommended sizes for spaces, but also the building characteristics that are needed to deliver education as it aligns with our curriculum and instruction. So it includes information on the types of furniture, teaching tools, utilities that are needed, technology, spatial characteristics, flow through the buildings and adjacencies. They provide our design teams with a guiding document to outline our needs and spatial arrangements within our facilities. And while they do serve as a guiding document with each new facility, they almost serve as a starting point with each new facility, we're going to roll through all the affected departments and all the interested departments that are going to be involved in that facility. And we do multiple rounds of design meetings to refine those designs. So essentially, it helps our architects and engineers with where to start on our designs, but we're going to always meet many, many times to review and revise as we need to. And with that, the administrative recommendation is to approve these educational specifications as presented.
Questions from trustees? Mr. Rich, so this, and this is my fault because I got a laundry list of things and I just was overwhelmed and didn't get them to you.
Sure.
Few questions and I'll run through them. So there's nothing in there about lead certification, or is there LEED?
LEED certification, so
Yeah.
like for green buildings?
Yes.
No, sir, so there's a separate document that we keep internally called our Design and Construction Standards document. And that really gets into the nuts and bolts of every component within a facility, the roof types, the certifications we'd like to seek, the green initiatives, things like that. So this is while it's a lot of information, it's pretty high level on just kind of the overall designs and flows and things we typically include in spaces.
Okay, on page 253, it referenced feel, and I just had the comment of how do we make the community feel connected? And I'd said opportunities for, we've done it in the past for city parks and fields. So if you would I'll share that with you, but I just want that to be a part of the record.
You bet.
And then I wondered about the specs of our highest achieving elementary campuses, and do we think it's related to how they're constructed, or we just think it's all instruction-driven in terms of how we think the facility impacts, and then, or lack thereof, how it impacts achievement in the classroom?
Sure, so I think I think the instruction is the primary driver, but the facilities, there's been studies shown that facilities do impact performance, particularly natural light and things like that you're wanting to bring into spaces and outdoor spaces, and being able to differentiate instruction through bringing them to different environments within the building. So I do think it plays a role, a little less tangible than the direct instruction they're receiving, but yes, it definitely has an impact.
And I had a note in here, I said parent and student interaction zone. In this day and age of safety, and how you come in and there's that kind of, there's that area where you come in, but I'm just wondering in the future with how safety's gone, if there's maybe the need to have an area where parents can truly interact with their kids, but maybe it's withdrawn from, like when you go in to eat lunch. And it was just an idea as I think about how things evolve. And I thought maybe this was a document that you would capture that in.
Sure, yeah, we can, a lot of districts do a lot more outside of classroom spaces, collaborative learning environments that could be a space kind of more aligned with what you're speaking of. And we can certainly seek to make some modifications to incorporate those in future designs.
How we communicate, digital signage, can we make sure we have some really good specs, so we can communicate things that are going on in the district, and that, I think about that good old sign at Ellison, it doesn't quite, I'm gonna stop picking at your scab on Ellison, I know, just got 2 more years.
Understood.
Well, no, Marvin's up here, we're gonna keep going at it, but just how we can use those things to communicate, but it just strategic in where you place them and what you can put on them. I had sound on here, throughout the school, auditoriums, halls, and gyms, so when we have events, so when our parents are there, often we're pulling out little speakers and things of that nature, but how we can really have sound systems that allow us to be effective in our communications. Middle school gym size, I'd said I'd love to see middle school gymnasiums at our elementary schools moving forward, if we ever get to the point where we can build another one, which we may not. Sensory rooms for our unique needs students, and I don't know if I saw that captured in there anywhere. I tried to look, but I didn't quite see anything that would capture that.
I think we spoke to sensory more in the castle type classrooms, but not necessarily providing a separate space for that. We have worked with SPED on potentially, sensory walls and things like that within those spaces. We've installed several things across the district, but yes, we can incorporate some additional language on that.
And I will share all these items. And at the middle schools, if we ever build another middle school gym or have any bonds to renovate 2 gyms, so parents don't have to have their kids at school at like 5 a.m. in the morning for practices, and, we turf football fields. I know it comes with money, but water is the most precious resource in the state of Texas. And so, yes, turf has to be replaced, but if we could get away from having to irrigate middle school football fields, we'd probably be helping our community and preserve water and make it available for other things, such as economic development. 4-lane tracks, and so they can actually practice track at the middle schools. Right now, there's nothing there. Dance rooms in middle school, so we can grow a dance program, so they're not in portables, and that's kind of in the fine arts lane. And then ROTC in our middle school buildings. That's it. And I'll share those notes, and I apologize because we talked yesterday evening, and I was just like, I didn't give Adam my notes.
No problem, no problem.
All that to say, and we're going to vote and approve a document, because I was going to say, hey, can we hold off on voting and approve, but I'm not going to be that guy.
And I mean, it can be a living document. We can absolutely incorporate a lot of these concepts into a future revision to it. Yes, sir.
Madam Capito.
I have two things. One, first I need to say, I had actually emailed this, but I want to say it for everyone, is I went to the school board conference that I have to go to, and I will tell you, I really appreciate you because I sat there with hundreds of school districts that talked about that they didn't even know who their facility guy was and that they never come to school board meetings. And so we just appreciate that you always keep us very well informed. And every time they ask a question, I got to raise my hand like, oh, I already know that because our guy tells us. Sorry about y'all. So really appreciate that and just wanted to say that publicly. But the second thing is, I like the sensory idea, but I really don't want it to attach to a CASEL program because then we're not using it for RTI and those behaviors and things that are coming more of a public space, maybe a counselor area or an area that could be used that would benefit the whole school because sometimes those kiddos may not yet be in SPED, and if it's attached to just one classroom, then that becomes more of that domain versus that it may be a space that the school needs to use in general for behavior children or children who need sensory or need a break or whatever that looks like. So I'd like to maybe look, sorry, didn't mean to like change that idea, but I love the idea just maybe more of a school-wide effort.
You bet.
So that's all I had.
Madam Jones.
So, Mr. Rich, I just want to clarify for the public that these are just specifications that we're putting in a form. So should we be building a new school, we would consider all of these things.
Yes, ma'am.
Not that we're going out to build a new school tomorrow, or that we're going to be renovating all of our schools to meet these specifications at this time.
Right.
Just want
It
to
would
make
serve-
sure the public understands.
Absolutely. For a future new
Thank you.
school, in which we don't see one on the immediate horizon, and we'll talk more when we get into long-range planning, this would serve for that purpose.
Yeah, but when we put a bond out there one day and they pass it, we're going to get some of these things in there.
Right.
I'll vote for it. Any other questions? It's an action item. Madam Capito.
I move to approve the educational facility specifications as presented.
We have a motion by Madam Capito. We have a second by Secretary Adams. Any further discussion by trustees? There being none, all those in favor, show of hands. We have 7 in favor, none in opposition. Passes unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Rich.
Thank you.
We'll now go to agenda item B, which is consideration of quarterly investment report for the period ending May 31st, 2026. Welcome back, Ms. Vaden.
Thank you very much. Thank you again. Flip through this. First of all, I want to point out the investment report is slightly different than it has been in the past. We have had an upgrade to our software, and so the information does look slightly different. Again, I always want to point out, this is in compliance with the Public Funds Investment Act and Board Policy CDA. Overall, the investment balance this quarter increased by approximately $11.5 million, and the year-to-date return is 3.88%, which for the year produces right at $11 million in interest revenue, and $3.6 million is for this quarter. I'm going to stop, and I want to make sure this is understood. I think I have come to a realization the last couple of weeks. I think there is this thought that we have a completely separate pot of money that's set aside and doing nothing but earning interest, and we're putting that towards the budget. That is completely false. This is our regular operating funds for all funds. This is not just the general fund. So this would have the strategic facilities fund balance in there, school nutrition balance, debt service. And so just for clarification, this is in and out, and this is our operating money that includes tax revenues, money that comes from state aid, et cetera.
You need to have Karen Rudolph do a letter to the editor on your behalf to provide that clarification.
Thank you for asking her. Oh, okay. The only other thing I wanted to point out, we have had some, I think I brought this up before, initial discussions regarding potential interest earnings and ways to maximize that, and that's definitely an effort that we are working toward. We've had conversations with a company that is their specialization. They only work with government entities, and so the fee would come out of that interest that they are able to generate, and we feel like the additional interest would more than cover their fee. So we will be bringing that to you in a future board meeting. I'm not going to say next board meeting. It may be a few.
Mr. Vice President.
Ms. Vane, just one quick question. So the deposit, I'm just kind of curious, so that, for example, there's 44 million in the depository bank, which has a way lower yield than the state pool. Is that just a liquidity function? Is it easier to get money in and out of the bank than the pool? Is that why we keep that money there, earning less?
I'm not going to say it's easier. The thought is that's basically 1 month's operating. So you've got approximately $33 million a month in payroll and about 11 million non-payroll. And so that's kind of that amount, why that's there, potentially as that clears during the month.
So it's a liquidity.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, and right, so I guess what I'm just asking, if it's easier, if it's just as easy to get money in and out of the state pool, yeah, why would you not put it there? Or is that something we're working on addressing?
That's part of what we're working on addressing.
Okay.
Again, while it's very easy to get money out of those state pools, that is a process, and there's a recording and some personnel time and resources involved in that. Not that that necessarily justifies it, but there is additional work that is involved in that. While it's not difficult, it does
Okay.
take some staff time.
Okay, but if you tell me that's something we're looking at.
That will be addressed as
Okay.
well.
Yep, thank you.
I'm good unless y'all have other questions.
Questions? This is an action item. Madam Capito.
I move to approve the quarterly investment report for the period ending in May 31st, 2026, as presented.
I have a motion by Madam Capito. We have a second by Vice President Mintz. Any further discussion by trustees? There being none, all those in favor, show of hands. We have 7 in favor, none in opposition. Passes unanimous. Thank you, Ms. Vaden, for your
Thank
work.
you.
We'll now move to agenda item number 7, discussion of future board meeting agendas and trustee remarks. We'll start with the lady on my far right, Madam Tina Capito.
I'm already good. I've made mine. Thank you.
My favorite trustee, Mr. Rainwater.
Research. Oh, yeah, thank you. No, you're good. You're good. Org chart, easy. I think that's completed with the changes. I know, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, nevertheless, we'll certainly can do that. Dashboard, I will certainly look into that. I know we have some things internally, so we'll get with the team, see what we could talk to as far as where the board could have access to certain, because it could be a bit convoluted. Lots of things that we do with the dashboard. But nevertheless, yes, I believe we can get that done.
I'm just wanting to see how this new org chart is impacting student performance and how we're moving, particularly, of course, in the middle schools, how we're moving the ball down that road. And I'm not clear on the responsibilities of all our new folks that we have with us. I'd like to see that.
Fair enough.
Thank you.
Best secretary in the state of Texas,
I'm good, sir.
the Honorable Rodney Gilchrist.
I want to just publicly thank you, Callan. I had some questions about the budget stuff. You answered them all tonight. Thank you. And I think that I asked the questions because I want the public to understand them a lot. And a lot of things that we understand up here on the dais, the general public doesn't get it. They don't get it. So thank you for clarifying a lot of that stuff tonight. The other thing I wanted to drive home, and I'm going to say this and I'm going to leave it alone. We have really got to start to consider how we pay our hourly employees. And I'm going to keep pushing this because you're going to keep attracting less quality people by paying substandard pay. I'm just saying that you got to I know we got to work through it, but we want to attract certain people, a certain quality of employee that we can keep and retain. If you don't pay them and compensate them to some degree where they feel like they're getting compensated reasonably, you're going to keep having this turnover. And if you look at a lot of our employee issues, some of those hourly people are some of those issues. I'm done. Thank you.
Madam Jones.
I have nothing, thank you.
Mr. Vice President.
I'm good. Mr. Rainwater is my favorite trustee as well.
You all won't have to do better.
I just want to welcome Dr. Donald Stewart to the team. His first meeting, our Deputy Superintendent of, I'll say curriculum and instruction. Did I get that? Or learning service? He's a Deputy Superintendent, we'll say that. So welcome to the team, welcome to the DICE, and we're trying to break you in tonight, and it'll be all right. We appreciate you being here, so best of luck. Do great things, and get out and meet the community, and make an impact. So welcome. That's all I got. Mr. Superintendent.
All right. Well, again, welcome back. It's been a great start of the week. Again, shout out, I'm sure the principals y'all should be in bed getting ready for tomorrow. But nevertheless, it's been a great couple of days with our campus level teams. Again, thank you to our district level staff. I just want to publicly thank you guys. This has been a great start with our administrative team, our leadership academy, because it starts with leadership. And so we got to set the tone, and I strongly believe you all are doing that, and we're doing that collectively. So I'm looking forward to what's in store. Thanks, Scott. You and your team are up tomorrow. So we move to the operations side tomorrow. So thank you.
All right. Yes, sir.
I just think we need to put Dr. Stewart on the focus and let him say a few words about where he's been and what he's doing and what his taskings are here.
That's why you're my favorite trustee. Dr. Stewart, the mic is yours. Make sure the light is green. That's rule number 1. There you go.
I appreciate it. To say the least. I will say the transition into Colleen's been I won't say smooth, but it's been one of the best I've ever had. The folks here are really good, hardworking folks. We've rallied as a team to identify areas where we can improve. We focused on the Lone Star governance goals, and how do we streamline things and just make it a little easier for those who are on the campus to be able to do what they do. We see it as very accomplishable work that can happen very quickly in some areas, and some things we're going to have to continue to work on over time. But for the most part, we got to get a good sense today in our Leadership Academy, the last 2 days, about where our staff that are leaders for instruction are really at, their capacities at, and what are some things that they have questions around, and what are they looking forward to. And so I think the uniqueness to the team is by increasing the support as a district, what we're able to do is just to really have a more personalized ability to help staff get to where they need to be.
Accountability is much higher than it's ever been, and it's much harder to teach than it's ever been. There are a lot of expectations for teachers in the classroom, and so we have to get them what they need as quickly as possible. So what we've done here is we've looked at ways to kind of simplify that more and more and more while still holding people accountable but supporting them. You want to balance the support, but you also want to balance with accountability. So we have pretty clear outcomes. We've picked some strong strategies that we'll continue to implement. Some things that were already here that were going well, we're not going to let those go because people know how to do those, or most people know how to do those things. But there will be some changes. There will be some focusing on creating culture around academic and student success, and that, you know, we're all in it. They're all our children, and they deserve the best. No.
Thank you. All right, we're now going to go back to now, the board will now convene in closed session as allowed by Texas Government Code under provisions. Oh, okay. Dr. Davis, so I don't mess this up. Do we need to recall anything from, is there anything else you need? I know I need to call board operating procedures, so. Okay, we're going to go, let me make it easy. We're going to go back to agenda item 2, and we're going to call 2A, discussion regarding board operating procedures as allowed by Texas Government Code 551.071 and 551.074. We don't need that one. Then we're going to call agenda item 2E, deliberate the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property as allowed by Texas Government Code 551.072. And Dr. Davis, do you need any employee? No. Okay, and no students? No. Okay. Okay. So we've called in 2D and 2E as allowed us under 551.071 and 551.072. And then, Joey, should I call the grievances now as well? Okay. And we're going to call agenda item 2B pursuant to Texas Government Code sections 551.071 and 551.0821. The board will consult with its attorney regarding pending or contemplated litigation and matters involving personally identifiable student information, including discussion of a proposed resolution agreement involving mediation docket number 089DM0526. Agenda item 2C pursuant to Texas Government Code sections 551.071 and 551.0821. The board will consult with its attorney regarding pending or contemplated litigation and matters involving personally identifiable student information, including discussion of a proposed resolution agreement involving TEA due process docket number 333 SE0426.
Mr. President, could you also call for 2H and I that we will also be going out?
That's exactly where I was turning.
We'll also be going out under, this is my fault, under 551.074 as well on H and I.
Okay, and then we're going to call
Thank
agenda.
you.
No, thank you. Agenda item 2H, level 3 parent grievance as allowed by Texas Government Code 551.071 and 551.0821 and 551.074, as well as agenda item 2I, level 3 public grievance as allowed by Texas Government Code 551.071, 551.0821, and 551.074. No voting will take place in closed session. Any action the board wishes to take as a result of discussions in closed session will take place after the board reconvenes in the open meeting. The time is now 8:50 p.m. and we are in closed session. The board is reconvening in open session at 9:46 p.m. Is the recorder on? We're recording. Yeah, I know Dinah's going, of course we are. Is there a motion? Mr. Vice President.
Mr. President, I move that the Board of Trustees deny Mr. Coney's complaint appeal and uphold the administration's decision at level 2 for each appeal.
Motion by Mr. Mintz. We have a second by Trustee Gilchrist. Any further discussion by the Board of Trustees? There being none, all those in favor, show of hands. 7 in favor, none in opposition, passes unanimously. For the record, this announcement of the board's decision is made in the presence of Mr. Coney. The complaint, this appeal has concluded. Thank you. Yes, and I'll call that the, I got more pieces of paper here. I'm gonna be, let's see. And now, 2I, there you go. The board will now reconvene in closed session for agenda item 2I, a level 3 parent grievance as allowed by Texas Government Code 551.071, 551.0821, and 551.074. No voting will take place in closed session. Any action the board wishes to take as a result of discussions in closed session will take place after the board reconvenes in the open meeting. The time is now 9:49 p.m., and we are returning to closed session. The time is now, the board is reconvening in open session at 10:21 p.m. We are recording. Trustees, there's an agenda item before you. Mr. Vice President.
Mr. President, I move that the Board of Trustees deny the grievance complaint appeal and uphold the administration's decision at level 2.
Show of hands. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 in favor. Those opposed? We have 6 in favor, 1 in opposition, and Trustee Rodney Gilchrist. Passes by a 6-1. The motion has passed, and the complaint is denied. For the record, this announcement of the board's decision is made in the presence of the grievant. This complaint is concluded. All right, we will now. All right. We're now going to go back to agenda item 2. Yep. And I'm going to call 2A under Texas Government Code 551.071 and 551.074. And I'll call, 2E under 551.072. No voting will take place in closed session. Any action the board wishes to take as a result of discussions in closed session will take place after the board reconvenes in the open meeting. The time is 10:23 PM, and we're in closed session. The time is now 11:22 PM, and we're reconvening from closed session. No voting or action took place in closed session. We'll now move on to agenda item. Help me out here. 12. Agenda item. Page? 8 and 9. Yes, okay. We'll now move to posted agenda item number 8. Thank you. I thought you were saying the page number. Consider and take possible action on a proposed settlement agreement involving mediation docket number 089-DM-0526, including possible delegation of authority to the superintendent to execute a final resolution agreement on behalf of the district. This is an action item.
Mr. President. Mr. President, I move to approve the proposed settlement agreement involving TEA due process docket number 333-SE. Wrong one. My apologies. Mr. President, correction. I move to approve the proposed settlement agreement involving mediation docket number 089-DM-0526 and authorize the superintendent to execute all necessary documents on behalf of the district.
We have a motion by Vice President Mintz. We have a second by Trustee Gilchrist. Any further discussion by the board? There being none, all those in favor, show of hands. We have 7 in favor, none in opposition. It's a unanimous vote. Thank you. We'll now move to agenda item 9. Consider and take possible action on a proposed settlement agreement involving TEA due process docket number 333-SE-0426, including possible delegation of authority to the superintendent to execute a final resolution agreement on behalf of the district. This is an action item. Mr. Vice President.
Mr. President, I move to approve the proposed settlement agreement involving TEA due process docket number 333-SE-0426 and authorize the superintendent to execute all necessary documents on behalf of the district.
We have a motion by Vice President Mintz. We have a second by Madam Capito. Any further discussion by trustees? There being none, all those in favor, show of hands. We have 7 in favor, none in opposition. Passes by unanimous vote. I think we'll now move to agenda item number 12. No. Nope, not tonight. We're not going to. Okay. Even though we call it, you want me to call it? Yes. Yes, 4E, we don't need to take 4E up. Correct, I'm tracking you now. All right, now I think we're to agenda item number 12. And unless there's dissent, we are adjourning this meeting under a unanimous, no? Oh, okay, let's do it the other way. We got a motion by Secretary Adams. We have a second by Madam Capito. All those in favor of adjourning the meeting at 11:26 PM on Tuesday, July 14th, show of hands. It's a unanimous vote of 7-0. Thank you for your time.
You got both ends.